Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things. Yes. Let's go ahead and get started then. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a fantastic episode of Geeky Gentlemen. Today, joining me, Sid Part 2, is Zazubar, aka Bill, Milan Jeftik 1992, and yes, that is his real name. And once again, back for more fun and games is Alec, aka Esplin227. Everybody say hi.
Hello.
Hey,
Just
how's it going?
Awesome.
That was awkward, sorry.
That was the radio announcer version of Sid Part 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I don't know.
Not a single insult in the bunch. Good for you.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting there. It's a step-by-step process. You stupid bastard.
There you go.
You
just
just
had a
get
little
it all
bit of-
out now.
I just had a little bit of a slip-up. I'm sorry. You know, there's a challenge week. We should do a challenge week on Geeky Gentlemen. Just Bill can't talk about Godzilla. Milan cannot say anything sexually inappropriate, and I can't insult anybody. That would be a
And we'll
fantastic.
lose. We will
I think
lose.
I went through the Dead Space Downfall video without mentioning Godzilla.
Dude.
Okay, well, we gotta
yes,
get
you
some.
did. Yes, you did. I checked. You did. But
Okay.
dude,
You just checked right now.
Yes. No, I've watched it all, and as we were recording it, I think you mentioned Godzilla like 3 to 4 times.
Oh,
I don't believe you, but okay.
anyway.
But Ian, if we actually do that video, then we'll lose all our viewers because that's all we have to bring to the table.
Yeah, we won't even be talking.
That's all we
Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Now, today we're going to be talking about pseudoscience, and something I just thought of when Bill and I were talking before we started recording was one of the last videos Alec was in. We were talking about science fiction technology, and I made a point toward the end of that about how once we get to basic human thought, or basic primate thought for that matter, it's all about tool use and manipulation of tools. And it seems like a good idea to go back in time with that a little bit and talk about life that existed before that to a certain extent. And we'll start this out on the example that really generated the idea for this episode for me. Bill did his little mini-series on Jurassic Park, and of course the amazing little bit of science fiction that was kind of neat in Jurassic Park was, dinosaurs being cloned from leftover DNA of fossilized mosquitoes. And the thing is, that's actually the process essentially being used to clone a woolly mammoth right now.
Well, not fossilized mosquitoes.
Preserved mosquito. Yeah, you're right.
Well, it's more... The reason it wouldn't work for Jurassic Park has more to do with the fact that...
DNA breaks down over time, yeah.
Yeah, the gap in time between woolly mammoth and dinosaur is astronomical. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
agreed. I'm just talking about... The thing is, and that's really where we're going to get into, the difference between pseudoscience and science fantasy. You have Star Wars, which is just absolutely unbelievable science fantasy, and you got magical little microbial life forms that allow you to lift fighter jets, essentially.
Yes.
That's obviously science fantasy, but then you have something like Jurassic Park, where the only reason it's not going to work is because of one actual scientific fact, as opposed to a complete diversion from reality, right? And so I figured it'd be interesting to talk about fake science, because we talked about science fiction technology, but we never really talked about some of the bases behind those things. Let's just start out briefly, guys. What are some of your favorite just scientific, like pseudoscience things in films or books?
I like the idea of the unlimited battery. We can see those type of examples in any sort of space travel, movie or superhero movie, like for example Iron Man. Like most of our designs could work. It's just the main problem is the power source. The exoskeleton is a real thing. The main problem, you gotta walk around with like a very thick wire connected to the back to feed the thing electricity. So I think the idea of the unlimited battery for your machines is a really interesting concept.
How about you, Bill?
I have a couple. One is I like the idea of the manipulation of nature. And my prime examples of this are Jurassic Park and Frankenstein even. Frankenstein is one of my favorite stories in all of fiction. And what really interests me about it is the idea of man shaping nature or controlling nature or reshaping nature by his own hand, and the exploration of how that kind of power can impact a man's mind. And that's a heavily explored theme in the novel Frankenstein and subsequent interpretations of it. Another thing I really like, just basically to kind of bounce off of Milan's point, I love the idea of traveling at the speed of light. I remembered seeing something about this, I think it was called The Science of Star Trek or something along those lines, and it was talking about how if we could do that, we could theoretically do some of the stuff that's in Star Trek, but and it was a while ago, so I'm sorry if I'm not quoting this correctly. It was like, they were talking about how we're never going to find out how to travel at the speed of light. It's just not possible.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So that's another idea I really like, just because I like space travel. So.
Yeah,
okay.
But if you think about that, people would say the same thing about televisions back in the 1910s. Yeah.
Well, the difference there is that no one back then really had the idea for a television.
Yeah.
I don't.
We get into more. Alec, what are some of yours?
I kind of wish, and no hard feelings, though I hate you forever. Now, I kind of wish you hadn't mentioned the genetic engineer thing and just had gone into the spaceship thing, because that's actually the one I was going to use.
Sorry.
I'm joking.
Alex just like all out. He's just like, I don't even know I'm in this video anymore.
I'm leaving. Bye, guys.
No,
You guys stole my topic. Go fuck
I have a principle in my mind, and it gets to the point where it almost is pseudoscience, because I almost feel like I actually believe it to be the case. And my general idea is anything that can be done with anything that could be done with silicon, there's no reason it can't be done with carbon and more efficiently. Things like telekinesis. If there is any point at any time in the future that we can have a small device that can move something remotely, whether we're talking about some device that can, like Magneto, like if we have a device that can do that can through magnetism move something. As our technology in carbon, which is just flesh in this case, gets better, there's no reason why that can't be implemented into someone's body. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, what are some examples of, besides Magneto, what are some more realistic, grounded examples in film or literature that you can think of for this?
Wow, it's pretty much... The principle's so broad that pretty much everything falls into that category, except maybe things like space travel, because I don't think we'll ever, fling our bodies and... But that's hard to say.
Yeah.
There's just
it's just something to think about. Is there any other good sci-fi movie that you think that's actually reasonably possible, if not for this one little thing?
I thought you were gonna say,
Because I was gonna go with giant anaconda versus giant Komodo dragon. Really.
Yes, Ian, take it there. Sure.
See, Alex sitting here stretching for stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, fill the dead air.
Here's the thing. Even that, like I said, once we understand carbon, it might not be exactly a giant tarantula, but there's
Like
nothing.
freaks.
What?
If we lived in a world
Never
with
seen
giant
anything
tarantulas, I would just kill myself because I have a deathly fear of spiders.
Oh, I despise arachnids. I don't
Then
want.
don't come
If
to
a bug
Australia.
is big enough to have hair on it, something is
Oh.
wrong in nature.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys,
oh
guys,
god, dude.
you have no idea. There's this giant ass spider just in my backyard. It's like we have
Somebody
a
shoot
swing
it.
set. No, we have a swing set, and that's to go through the swing set is the only way to get out, out through the backyard. And every night, whenever, like in the morning, they just take all the spider webs down. But like at 3 a.m., or at like 12 o'clock in the night, basically these motherfuckers they just make these giant ass spider webs. These big ass spiders, and you can barely see them in the dark. So you walk into them, and you're like, "What the fuck?" And you better pray to God that the spiders, not on you, because those things are as big as like, think your thumb, like as long as your thumb, and as thick as like, 2 fingers put together,
Holy
more or less.
fuck.
He
Get
lives
that
in
thing.
Australia.
Somebody,
Isn't it like
somebody murder those things, please?
You can't,
I'm up for.
because-
I want spider genocide. I'm just saying.
Dude.
Like, I'm pretty sure it was
The thing
actually
is-
Australia that got hit by the nuclear bomb, because that shit just sounds like straight out of, stupid nuclear radiation movie, right?
Fucking
If
Kumanga.
you can't kill those spiders, because even in the fucking aboriginal mythology, you can't kill a big spider, because weirdly enough, they come after you during the night if you like break their webs or kill you or something.
Great.
what the hell are you talking
Thanks,
about?
Milan.
What I was, going back to the genetic engineering thing, through trial and error. For instance, something like Wolverine. Yeah, you got a problem with taking in enough energy to be able to heal that quickly, and just having a body capable of doing that. But the moment we get to the point where we can mold flesh, and I say mold figuratively, not like we're clay people, that we can't mold flesh in the way that we make silicon chips, there is nothing that I don't see why we can't have periodic updates the same way we would have for silicon. It's just that evolution moves so slowly. If it's goal bit, like every time people talk about genetic engineering, they have this weird concept like we will try to create the perfect man. No, I think it'll be goal oriented. That is to say, we now have a problem. How do we make someone slightly more resistant to cancer? Over time, the technology would just get better, a little better over time. You get what I'm saying? How do we make someone heal a little better? I don't think the Wolverine thing's out of the question unless you're trying to do that shit now. You know what I mean? Like, through small incremental things. I don't see.
So you're talking about implementing eugenics to a point.
No, not eugenics. Eugenics is basic. First, I think eugenics is like the way people used to think of space travel. It's a very outmoded understanding of technology. Our technology is going to get to the point where that's the idea of that is quaint. Remember, the very concept of like Spider-Man. Yeah, of course, the crawling on walls and stuff is fake. But the idea of genetically engineering someone who's already alive, that's not a question. You can do that. Your body remakes your DNA constantly, and if you they did it with a rat. They changed one of the genes that govern hair color, and when they did that, as its hair regrew, it regrew in the new color. Because we're not an open book, we're not a blueprint, we're a recipe, and you can.
I got you.
Yeah. So the idea of
No.
eugenics is actually just really controlling breeding, like what we.
Yeah, that's what you're.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking updates as in we actively.
Yeah, okay. No, just the way you were talking about it from the evolutionary perspective, it seemed like you were talking about eugenics in the phrase of selective mating and stuff like that, which I don't know. I'm just a little opposed to that.
Yeah, well, I'm opposed to that too. Again, I think that was what we had at the time. Like, it was a concept that was never going to work, and it wasn't inherently ethical.
I mean, it worked. I mean, this is the unpopular thing to say, but it's very true. Slave breeding worked.
To a degree, yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's
definitely.
not what I mean. What I mean is, I'm not talking about just
I mean,
breeding.
the closest thing to superheroes we'll get is your average black man.
Oh Jesus Christ.
Kobe
I mean,
Bryant
shit.
is Superman.
I mean, look at Bolt. That man is not human. He's the closest thing to the Flash we'll ever get, and that's why I don't understand. Why aren't there more black superheroes? Because you don't need. You have them
Because
in real
it's not
life.
fiction at that point, Milan.
Exactly. They're fucking Supermen.
And that's a good point, Alec. I don't know. I don't care for eugenics, and I was actually having a conversation with someone a couple weeks ago. What are your guys' opinions on cyborg technology? Should there be a hard line? Is my personal question on it.
Well, what I don't understand is, for some reason, when it comes to either genetic engineering or cybernetics, which again, I think that's an older way of thinking. There is not going to be a distinction. Once we start making carbon computers, there is no reason to ever use silicon again. Like, once we master carbon, and again, carbon is just going to, it's essentially, we're going to mimic flesh.
Alec, the thing is, we're not gonna get to carbon first. Cybernetics are gonna become a major thing. We're working on. Milan, you sent me that video of the guy with the Terminator on. That was really cool, by the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if that's necessarily true. The reason I don't know if that's necessarily true is, have you watched Q Dragon's Brainstorm?
No, I haven't.
Okay, basically, advances that we've been having every 10 years, we're starting to have every year. And advances that we used to have every year are starting to come around every month. It's exponential, and I really don't think...
Yeah, we've talked about the technological singularity, but I think cybernetics are going to become a thing sooner than carbon manipulation.
Well, they already are.
No, I mean a much bigger thing. There's a woman, an artist, who she lost an eye in an accident, and she's actually, instead of just getting a glass eye, she actually commissioned several engineers and web developers to create a cybernetic eye that is a webcam that is directly linked to the internet via wireless signals. So she can essentially videotape every moment of her life.
Wow. See, that's cool.
Yeah, but that's a cybernetic thing before it's a carbon thing. And I agree with you. Carbon technology, once it takes off, is going to be a thing. But here's the question. Who's doing the research on that right now? And that's the thing, is it's just research at this point, whereas we already have cybernetics in the field, and we're developing those further right now.
Yeah, well, okay, I see what you're saying. I guess it's just a different way of looking at it on my side. What I see is... the carbon-based technology is actually, in a sense, helping the cybernet. Like, what's happening is they're starting to grow together. We're starting to get silicon chips that introduce, for instance, the cell chip mimics the cell. What's happening is, I don't think it's going to be one against the other. I think...
And can I just mention something real quick? The woman I just talked about, I find that incredibly interesting because, I don't know, 10 years ago, that probably would have sounded like the plot of a sci-fi movie as opposed to something that actually happened, or is actually happening. Wouldn't it? I don't know. Alec, can we, Bill and Milan have been shockingly quiet, so let's,
sorry about that.
No, it's fine. What is your guys' input on the whole
thing? No, please, I get paid anyway, it's fine.
I think,
you don't get paid.
I think, yes, I think cyborg technology would, spread over the world much quicker because it seems to be much more, what's the right word I'm looking for? Cost effective, because you can just buy yourself an artificial arm, then just pay a guy to regrow it, because I think it's gonna be available to the everyday public much sooner than very specific genetics that will be.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. That, and just we're still having a lot of problems with genetic engineering. Every time I look into it, I find something that's inherently wrong, but no one ever seems to mention it. Like, I was watching this news story about they introduced a gene from a tomato that helped it survive frost longer, into fish, right? And the fish were able to survive in colder water. But here's the thing. Their offspring were 3 times the size of their parents when they were fully grown. And no one talked about that being an inadvertent result. There's like, it's great, now these fish can survive, and they're bigger, it's amazing. No one talked about, we didn't plan for the big thing to happen, like, at all.
Here's the thing, I think. Machines are a lot easier to manipulate than an organism. Just obvious. I don't think anyone is questioning that. But see, I think I agree with Ian just because we have a much easier time molding and basically getting the result we want out of a machine more than we can if we do it with a flesh and bone and cells. Just because there are certain unpredictable aspects of the organic side of things that
everybody's different. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because with a machine, most pieces of metal are the same, and most pieces of circuitry can be made to be the same. So I think that's why that'll be the first step. But
I wasn't saying otherwise. Like, I'm not saying that's not going to be the first step.
Right.
What I'm trying to say is the other thing won't be far behind, because what we're finding out is they aren't as different as people think. You got to realize that the cybernetic is helping. For instance, the ability to map the genome as our silicon-based technology gets better. It is making the carbon technology just... The problem with the carbon technology is it's like the difference between building your own computer and finding an alien computer where you have to figure out the code that's already there. As your technology gets better, what happens is little by little you learn more about the alien technology, and it has a cascading effect because the alien technology helps you make your own technology better, and then that helps you understand the alien technology. You see what I mean? Each time the jump is much bigger and you get much closer. It's an exponential thing. That's what I'm trying to say. What I think is, because you got to look at the last 50 years, how fast things went. The reason we don't have spaceships and stuff is because there was a natural limit on how far things went based on, money and resources. But I guess I'm just finding it hard to articulate. I don't think it's... When I say I don't think it's as hard, that makes it sound like I'm trying to say it's easy. What I'm saying is, look at it the way someone 50 years ago would have looked at, an iPhone. It seems impossible. They wouldn't have known the internet.
Actually, dude, have you seen Iron Sky yet?
No.
I haven't.
There's this great scene where the black astronaut is in the Nazi scientist lab, and he's like, "What is this device?" And he's holding... It's not an iPhone, it's a smartphone. And the guy goes, "It's my smartphone. It takes awesome pictures, and it's also a kick-ass computer." Computer! That is no computer. And he's got like a 1940s computer like behind him. This is a computer, and it's like taking up a whole fucking wall.
Yeah.
So
it's funny how that came to pass as well. It's the idea of a flip phone was something we saw in the original Star Trek series, and now a flip phone is considered a little old school even by some people. It's like
out of date.
I think it's genius because you can drop it and it doesn't fucking break.
Fair enough. But it's like I can't believe we've gotten to a point where the idea of holding a little device in your hand that looks as cool as when you flip it open is now like outdated in a way. I mean, I know there are still people out there who have flip phones, but it's just like, I was thinking about it today because I have an iPhone now, and it's like my baby. And I was using it today, and I was thinking, imagine if I would have like went back in time to like my 3rd grader self, and I said, one day you're gonna be able to watch a movie while you're sitting in class at school.
See, I always wanted that to happen.
Yeah, and guess it can now. I was watching Netflix in the middle of class today, and I was like, oh my god, I'm watching fucking Doctor Who in the middle of class. It was crazy, and I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. So it's one of those weird things, and it happens more often than I think. I think a lot of people think. It's like stuff that we see in fiction decades before ends up becoming reality.
The everyday.
It happens a lot more than people think, because it's like, I think the mindset is that people think that because it's something that's come up come up with by someone who would never really be able to do it themselves. Like the writers of the original Star Trek show probably did not have the training to create a flip phone. Probably
Actually,
not.
can I mention something real quick, Bill?
Sure, go ahead.
Apple is, of course, suing Samsung for violating their copyright based on they think they invented tablets for some reason, and Samsung stole their design of a rectangle with rounded edges. But
Tablet is.
in the court case, Samsung played a clip from 2001: A Space Odyssey, where the astronauts are touching a screen to do stuff, as part of their case for why tablet technology is not a new idea that Apple created.
Right.
So I think that's something interesting.
What's
to bring
sad
up.
is Apple still won that court case.
Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous.
Oh, that's
Well, I
because
mean, we don't have an actual legal system in the U.S. We have a plutocracy. Apple had more money to pay the right people.
Yeah.
There's no way that wasn't bought. Like, yeah, we haven't had a real legal system in a long time, but I don't even want to get into that.
Corruption of the legal system.
Somebody call Zorro.
I'm okay with it now because you sang it. That makes everything better.
No,
Well,
do not encourage him. Do not encourage him. He will just spend the rest of the video singing, and that will be a terrible thing. We'll lose, like, all of our viewers.
All 5 of them.
Yes. Like, I will stop watching the show if mine.
Ian isn't even involved. He just kind of posts it without even watching. He's just like, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't even
he
edit it
just
anymore.
posts it. He just posts it with a feeling of disgust, like a disappointed child.
I need my vodka.
My father used to be in television. He was in advertisement and marketing, and he saw me editing on my laptop one day, and I'm working on a video program, just cutting some things together. And he goes, "Oh, that's cool. They got video editing on laptops. I didn't even think about that." And I go, "Oh, now this is just the easiest thing ever." And then I switched over to an audio editor, to my 3D editor, and then to my photo editor. I have an editing suite on my laptop. During his time, and this is the man that, not to besmirch my name too much, but it's because of my father that MTV exists, okay?
Ian wears that on a t-shirt, definitely.
Are you serious?
No, like, seriously, my father was in charge of the cable network, the leading cable network in Texas, and someone came to him and pitched MTV, and he said, "Yeah, put it on air."
Holy shit.
Yeah, right?
It's
So anyway,
weird. It's like I feel weird. Like in a couple of years, like, hey, my father created MTV, and like maybe in a couple of years we'll come back and we're like doing something important with our lives. Like Ian will be like some sort of, I don't know, dude that is important. Alec will be like,
let me make my point. So here we go. The man that at one time was pretty much that's a pretty big deal. For as far as entertainment business goes, right? The executive that approves whether or not shows go on air. He saw me editing. He's like, "Ian, I used to have to go to a room and spend hours with the guy to see him do stuff like this. He used to have 3-4 different machines to do any of this stuff, and you're cutting it together on one computer in an hour." Like, that's the thing. I spend probably, I don't know, unless I'm doing something special, I spend probably less than an hour editing an episode of Geeky Gentlemen. And I just think that's wonderfully interesting. If I were to go back to the Charlie Chaplin days and they see the shit I do, it's like, the fuck?
That's what it was called scientifically. The 1920s, the Charlie Chaplin era.
I don't know. I always think Chaplin when I think the 20s.
I think
he was their god, basically. He was their god, basically.
Yeah, I mean, he was the good.
That's not entirely accurate, Milan. But
It's like, what?
Charlie Chaplin was the god.
They went to church and they worshipped him like God, like seven-headed golden giraffe.
Another reason to watch Iron Sky is the brainwashed Nazi teacher was talking about how Charlie Chaplin loved the Fuhrer so much that he made the film The Great Dictator, the world's greatest 10-minute short film. And then later in the movie, they actually take her and watch the entire movie, and she just see her walk in the theater, and then he goes, an hour and a half later, and she walks out, just like, what? What was that?
That was the Great Dictator.
Yes, Iron Sky is a good movie. So let's talk about real science fiction technology then. How about Nazis on the moon? No one saw that coming, and then it totally did.
What?
Thank God,
Wait,
President.
there were actually Nazis on the moon?
Oh,
Nah.
dude, the Russians knew, the Russians knew that way before anybody else. We sent the motherfuckers there.
What are we
Well, here's the
talking
thing.
about?
I'm gonna spoil Iron Sky. At the end of Iron Sky, after the credits start to play, you see like all these nukes going around Earth as all the world's nations start to fight each other, and the camera's just pulling back. Earth gets smaller and smaller until you can't see it anymore, and then suddenly Mars. You start to see Mars, and you see a satellite rotating around. I'm like, oh my God, please give me a communist symbol on Mars. That's really an base. That would be amazing. I want that sequel. No, because like in this old Russian film, communist Russia film, Milan might even have seen it. These communist astronauts, cosmonauts, there's the word, land on Mars, and they find an alien civilization that's being, this giant, really on the nose allegory for American, for the American civilization. And they take over. They introduce the working Martian man to communism, and the Martians overthrow their president, and they introduce a communist world on Mars. So it really is the Red Planet.
That's hilarious.
So I want that to be a sequel to both Iron Sky and that film.
Yes, because
it'll be in continuity.
it's a fiction. It's a fiction. Totally, it's a fiction.
It didn't happen at all. I swear.
Yes, Milan.
None. Yeah, you just keep telling yourself that, yeah.
And
I will.
Putin is not really the reincarnated form of Joseph Stalin.
No, totally not. They actually just put his brain in a younger man's body.
I mean,
Shit!
nothing.
I'll be assassinated now. Thanks a lot, guys.
My bad. I don't know. It's just I'm sorry to kind of get off on a point here, but that was just something I found interesting about editing technology, how far it's come. That you got me sitting here in a friggin' room with 2 laptops, and I'm able to run just about any program you'd ever need to edit something with. That was just unimaginable 20, 30 years ago.
I know, and I guess it's because of this. Things like YouTube have become this popular. Anyone can be a fucking editor.
Mm-hmm.
A movie maker, anybody, any fucking 2-bit hack can create something of worth.
So, Bill, would you like to comment? I think Bill dropped from the call, or I pissed him off.
No, I'm here. What's up? Sorry, I had to step away for a minute.
Milan said, see, it ruins the joke, but I'm gonna repeat it again.
Sorry.
Milan was talking about, like, you can use Movie Maker, so any 2-bit hack can edit a video again. I go, Bill, would you like to comment?
For yourself, Milan.
I didn't even intend that to be a joke against Bill, but Ian,
Bill uses Movie Maker. Or he did for the longest time.
I did for like 5 years, yeah.
I'm impressed. Like, Ian can just take any random thing I say and make it an insult either against me or Bill. I don't know if
it's really an art form,
I know. I don't know if I should be insulted or just somewhat impressed. Like, God.
See, what pisses me off is that it happened when I was away from the mic, so it's like I can't even make some kind of witty retort.
Yeah, I know. It was awesome. Anyway,
I don't have this like strange, like sick respect for Ian that Milan has, where like even if he's like shitting on him, he still's just like, I love you, Ian.
Well, no, here's the thing. Milan spent his entire life being insulted, and then I come around and I'm actually making him laugh at them.
Yeah,
I don't think he ever had that before. He's like, they're always just really dumb and, on the nose. But he's really clever. I quite enjoy it when he torments me.
Alec, this sick relationship I have to deal with now.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, this is disturbing.
Yeah, so.
You got no idea, man. You got no idea.
But
anyway,
Arkham Asylum of YouTube.
Oh, totally. But Ian, Bill, look. Fuck, I had a really cool burn, but I forgot it now.
That's because I wiped it from your memory with my psychological powers.
Psychological.
There's something I wanted to ask both of you guys earlier. I was like I said, I was talking about cybernetics, and for me, there's a certain point when it comes to body parts replacement, I'm okay with it. I think I have a problem when it comes to the point where it's it's optional. You know, hey, instead of this, why don't you have this cybernetic implant put on? I have an issue when it comes to when it's more convenient to have cybernetics than it is to have flesh and bone.
Ian, let me
Uh,
ask you this: are you opposed to or with the idea of making it so you can go on the internet inside your mind and like look at the screen in your eyes?
I
To a
completely
point,
go
like I
against
wouldn't
that.
mind a contact. Let me put it this way: I wouldn't mind a contact lens. I wouldn't mind a pair of glasses, but I'd be bugged if they're like implants for convenience.
Yes, it's a part of your brain.
Yeah, I would
It's
not.
weird.
See, that's what I don't get. I don't understand that way of thinking. If you don't want that, just don't get that.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah,
I
but
wouldn't be
it's-
bugged if it exists. I think science needs to be pushed forward, and we human beings, we have to learn the hard way. I mean, you're not psychic. For all we know, that humble technology could turn out to be the thing that literally changes everything forever. You know, like the railroad. We can't not do a technology just because hypothetically something bad might happen. You know?
I know, but the
Well,
thing
that's
about
why we
that, the
experiment,
thing about,
yeah.
can I just say something? A thing about that,
No.
implanting ways, implanting the ability to communicate with people over the internet with your brain. I think it's really dangerous because all you need is one really smart hacker to create a virus that can just kill people who access this file. And
Well,
if
that's
this
the
thing
thing.
spreads, yeah, you could just
Yeah, no, you're right. And
everybody
they
everything.
can choose not to assume the risk. That is up to them. You can stay in. They can create viruses now. It's not impossible to create a genetic virus with regular DNA. In fact, we don't need brain machines. We already have regular viruses. We are literally at the mercy of people who work in those places. If they
Well, Alec, here's the thing though. If the technology becomes too widespread, at a certain point, you can say it's a choice, but it's really not. You know what I mean?
I would disagree. You choose not to drive a car. Yeah, you miss out on stuff, but
No, let me put it this way: you can't. It doesn't matter if you choose not to drive a car. You're still breathing the air. You know, there's this giant fucking problem looming over our heads with the non-expected consequence of greenhouse gases, and you know,
yeah,
global warming.
but look at the greenhouse gases. Let's not pretend that is the technology itself. That is businesses paying our government to not fix any issues. We could have had cars that run. We could have had the electric car was made ages ago, not just the one Toyota made. It was made like 20 years before that. But it all comes down to money. So I don't buy the whole greenhouse gas thing. Our technology can overcome those things. In fact, it has. It just hasn't been implemented because of money. So that's not. No, I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's not the point I'm making though. Whether or not it's not been taken care of doesn't matter. My point is there's this unexpected consequence of greenhouse gases. No one saw it. Henry Ford did not go, I'm going to choke the world.
No,
all right?
No.
Here's
But
the thing.
we were given ample warning. Yeah,
No,
there's
the
unintended
point I'm making-
consequences,
point I'm
but
making-
there's unintended consequences with everything. We have to be
Yeah,
careful. We
and the
take
problem-
precautions.
I don't have a problem with it for the unintended consequence. I have a problem with it because I don't think people need to get lazier.
Well,
You know, the thing is,
that's another thing. That's more of a myth. People are more comfortable, but the fact is productivity compared to how much we're getting paid is through the roof. You know, people can relax more because before they didn't have a choice. They had to go out and do stuff because there was nothing to do. And you know what?
No, by lazy I didn't mean sitting around not getting stuff done. By lazy I meant just turning off their brain. I don't like seeing people. I don't like seeing zombies. I don't think zombies should be a thing, and they very much are, and it bugs me.
What
You
is
know,
a zombie?
Just these people that become technological zombies. They're extensions of their credit cards. They go out and buy stuff because they have to.
No, that has a lot more to do with the. See, again, I think you're getting corporatism mixed up with. We were pushed to be a consumer society. Not necessarily. That's not necessarily bad. It's just what's happening now is our old way of thinking crashing hard against our new technology. it's hard to explain.
Basically,
You have to be careful not to mix two. You have to look at all the things. The zombie thing, New Zealand, they have technology, and most of them are not zombies.
Alex,
They have the
Alex,
same technology we do, and they manage to get outside. It's you gotta look beyond just the immediate area you're in, because I'm sorry, that technology does not a lazy person make. A lazy person
Yeah, but
makes.
that's the thing. Is technology makes it easier to not think.
No,
Alex,
technology
Alex,
makes it more visible. That is all.
Alex,
Hmm?
guys, I think what Alec is trying to say is that basically we're people with the brains of like people from the we're basically medieval people with medieval brains, but with the technology of the future.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. All it does is make it more visible. The only difference between people chilling out now and doing nothing and people chilling out in the past and doing nothing is they used to sit around like on trees eating freaking apples and tricking other people into, yeah, I'm using a romanticized idea, but kids tricking other kids to paint fences like in Huckleberry. There's no difference between them trading dead cats and them sitting in front of a TV, except maybe they're getting fat. It virtually really is truly just a matter of opinion. It's like how I'm not comparing you to a goth or an emo, but it's like how anyone who's not, depressed, it's like, you're asleep. It's like, no, I'm the way I am based on the things that are my goals. People.
I disagree with that. I think that as technology has increased, people have become lazier and lazier, and by lazy I mean they just don't want to think. It's become bad to think. You say something smart and people look at you like you're the idiot. I think Idiocracy is a much more realistic vision of the future than the science fiction movie I've seen.
But I'm sorry, that's not technology's fault. That's American culture that's spreading throughout the rest of the world. It's spreading faster because people have access to technology, but that has nothing. Well, I'm not going to say it has.
Well, no, I'm not going to say it's the technology's fault, but I think I have a problem with the technology growing too fast because I don't think we deserve it.
Not that we deserve it. I don't think it's not that we deserve. I think it's not that we deserve.
There's no such thing as deserve. That's an incredibly simplistic, idealistic idea. No one deserves or doesn't deserve anything. We're just animals.
Alec, give Milan a second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
You guys are just talking over each other, and it's impossible to hear.
I think it's not just we deserve it. It's that we haven't really caught up with the just like, oh my god, we got all these new toys, but we're not psychologically adapted to to handling all this stuff. It's like, wow, new toys every month, new variations of like these new upgrades. Like we're not caught up with like, oh yeah, this is just new toys. This is not real stuff that we should base our lives around.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. You cannot get the culture mixed up with the technology.
No,
also,
that's
not just America.
Yeah, but dude, I'm not saying it's the fault of the technology. I'm saying it's the fault of the people, and it's like when you give a kid a chainsaw. Of course he's going to do something bad with it. It's cool to him. He likes it. But he hasn't earned the respect of the chainsaw yet, as it were. He hasn't earned the thought process to operate the chainsaw properly. And I don't think people are going to get to appreciate the level of technology they have. We were talking about how amazing iPhones are, but then how many people do you see with, this thing's a piece of crap? You're holding a computer in your hand.
Yeah, but see, that's not necessarily okay. I get what you're saying. You're right. People don't appreciate. I occasionally just sit here and marvel at the technology we have, but that has more to do with my personality. You gotta try. When I say don't be judgmental, I'm not saying don't judge people where they deserve it. I'm saying understand that just because.
You want a second to collect your thoughts? Bill had something to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let him while I try to gather my thought.
Thanks.
I also before we move on, Bill, sorry, I just gotta say something quick. Ian, your whole kind of fear that people I think the whole idea of people looking weird at you because you say something smart, it doesn't really have to do. I agree with Alec quite a bit because it doesn't have to do with the technology. I think it's this dangerous strain of anti-intellectualism that's just spread across America and the Western world. It's nothing to do with the technology. It's just the lack of
I think the
education.
technology has streamlined that process, though, is my problem with it.
Well, technology has allowed the way technology is now, because you don't have to know a lot about it, has allowed for cognitive dissonance. And there are many things that actually help that. Extreme consumerism. Again, I hate to keep bringing up the businesses. I'm not like some sort of anti-capitalism guy, but we don't actually have capitalism here. We have businesses that really do run everything. Anything from the moral, like it. You have to understand that the people making the technology, the people bankrolling the technology, are actively trying to create what you're describing. That is not the natural state of people. If you look, the concept of keeping up with the Joneses, that isn't.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Alec. Because the businesses are bankrolling the technology, as the technology progresses, it's being steered into the direction of being frivolous crap.
Yeah. I mean, technically what we're doing now could be considered frivolous crap. It comes down to opinion. I know we don't like to say that. We like to all say, we're intellectuals, we're different. But
And I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean, Bill and I were just talking about how philosophy is bullshit. And as a philosophy major, I agree with that sentiment. But Bill, like I said, you had something, so we keep skipping over you. What's up?
I don't remember now.
Oh, damn.
sorry
well.
about that.
That's
No,
okay.
It's just I agree that it's not technology's fault, but it's the same argument as guns don't kill people.
No, that is not the same argument at all.
I think it
no,
is.
No.
The argument guns don't kill people, people kill people is it's the people's responsibility, and it's their fault if something bad happens. And what you're talking about is it's not the technology's fault what people do with it.
No, I'm saying the concept of fault is inherently flawed and very moralistic. That is to say, it's really, there is no fault. If we work together to achieve a specific goal, we will achieve that goal. If we don't, we won't. We're not supposed to or not supposed to do anything. We're animals in a random universe. Let's say everyone does turn into zombies. That would be undesirable. No one has an obligation to be some sort of intellectual paragon. It's you're thinking in a sort of moralistic way. And
No,
I
I'm
know
not. And I think the
you are,
problem is,
but
Alec, I think the problem is we're both kind of straw manning one another's arguments because I realized when I said that was kind of a straw man, and I didn't mean for it to come out that way. That's just the argument that it feels like very much the same argument to me because what you're arguing is that, and fault was the wrong word. What you're arguing is if people abuse the technology that we have in the modern age, I just like that. I like that phrase, the modern age. If people abuse the technology that we have, it's not the technology that did it. It's the culture that we live in and the sociological aspects of the world and the age. And I agree, it's not on technology. Technology is not to blame for these people being zombies. But the thing is, technology is making it easier, and as the technology makes it easier, it's becoming more advanced from a very select group, and it's steering them to become even more zombie-like. Like I said, I think Idiocracy and Futurama are the true sci-fi story of the future. Futurama, if you're optimistic, by the way.
Well,
because
Futurama is kind of insane. Futurama if you're on acid.
Well, no, I mean, Futurama because at least the technology is still advancing there. We got Farnsworth, so there's something. Given he's a madman, but still. I think Idiocracy and Futurama, once again, if you're optimistic, are the true American sci-fi stories as opposed to, these we get Star Trek where the world's utopian. I don't see it.
Oh no,
Yeah,
I don't
because
see
I think
things
it's
being
because-
Star Trek. I see things
think
being.
it's-
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I did.
I'm sorry.
Milan, go ahead.
So the thing about that is just like there's a certain, I forget what this state of humanity is called. There was a sign that said that no matter what kind of advances we make, there's never gonna be a thing as a utopia. People will always be people. They will forever, even if you give people gold, they will, they'll for a few like days like, oh my god, I'm a rich motherfucker, and then they'll buy all this crazy shit, and then they'll just get bored. People will live all be just in the way that you will understand this. People will, no matter what you give people, they will always get bored of it and fuck themselves up.
See, I think it's interesting because the questions that we're pondering right now, the ones that we're debating right now, we're debating ways to solve them in a way, or at least advance them. But the realistic thing is, they're never going to get solved.
The thing of sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, to kind of relate that back to the technological thing we were talking about earlier. I'm not against the advancement of technology in any way. And I think that to a point, I agree with both of you. I think that the thing is that a lot of times I hear people in the older generation, when they see me and people in my generation using a smartphone, using a cell phone in general, with headphones plugged in when they're walking down the street, they see that as I think they're scared of it because one teacher I had once said that we don't know the impacts of a cell phone yet because it's still we're still in that generation that it's still kind of a new concept. You know what I mean?
Actually, had a quote about this, and just to give you an idea of how long ago or how far back my kind of thinking goes on this matter. No one understands the epoch that the telegraph has created.
Yes, I would agree with that.
No one understands the consequences of the epoch that the telegraph has created. And, I mean, the telegraph was the very first mass communication kind of thing over significantly large distances. You know, anywhere we could run a wire, we could talk to people. You know, there's the transatlantic telegraph line.
Before we move on to another topic, because I just want to get give my thoughts on this thing before we move on to something completely different. The whole idea that idiocracy is going to be the eventual end point of America. It's interesting because in the 18th century, there was this real kind of strive for perfection. I mean, if you read the letter sent from the front from the Civil War, these are like average, blue-collar soldiers who were recruited, and their, vocabulary, their style of speaking, the style of writing is, you can't compare it to your average, Gulf War soldier or your Afghanistan soldier. It's like, dearest Martha, I think about you every day. I see the beautiful sun go across the hills. It's poetry. But if you read like a letter home from like your average soldier now, it's like, don't fuck nobody. It's hot as sweat here. It's just nonsense. But the thing is, the idea, like in the 18th century, the technology had not advanced. And it was still like steam-powered stuff, but there was a strive for perfection, to perfect one's, intelligence, to strive for a strive for intelligence, basically. While here in this generation, but in this culture, it's more accepted to be stupid because there's a sort of smart shaming that I found that is kind of odd. It's like certain people like, oh, you're smart, you're an elitist. You think you're better than me because you know more shit. And I think that's just kind of, whenever I hear somebody say that who's in a position of power, I just want to spit at that person because it just disgusts me so. Like, oh, you're smarter than me, you think you're better than me. So I guess it's a certain level of intellectual communism, because it's like, well, not the collectivism, because it's like, you gotta be just as stupid as I am, but if you're smart, you gotta keep your fucking self quiet.
To quote Nietzsche again, if you don't mind, if you want to brainwash a youth, teach him to admire those who think like the group and to dismay at those who think differently.
Exactly, that's right. Because it's like, if you're considered a smart person now in America, mostly in America from what I see, because in Australia, there's a little bit of that in Australia too, but only like in the lower classes. If you're smart, you're considered to be a cunt. You're considered to be a person who thinks you're better than everybody else. And
that's the thing is, I mean, this isn't a new phenomenon in American culture. I mean, you can go back to the 50s, and it's the stereotype of the nerd that gets bullied by the jocks. They always, Poindexter. There's this culture of hurting someone because they're smarter than you. And I don't understand why that's okay.
Well, it's not seen as okay anymore.
Yeah, but it's still, it's It still happens though.
Yeah, but the
And
thing
no one
about
does
I gotta disagree with you there, because back in the 1950s and 60s, the idea of the Kennedy man, the man who can get us to the stars, was pretty smart. I think it's not the intelligence they were angry at. I think it was just the social awkwardness that they had a problem with.
I don't know. It bugs me. I've seen people get beat up when I was in high school for being smarter than for giving answers in class, and I tried to talk philosophy at work one time, and they all just laughed and told me I sounded like I was crazy, and that bugs me.
Well, the thing is that we're thinking, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant. I think the thing is that we're kind of thinking on a different wavelength than they are. I'm not saying it's a better wavelength. It's just different. Like, I think differently than my cousin, but we're very close. In that I think about the ideas that we're discussing now. 95% of the people I call my peers never even think about.
Yeah,
because they're too busy. And I don't mean this to sound bad. It's just it's the way some people are raised. They're too busy with their own lives. They say I don't care about these sorts of ideas.
It's perspective. That's
Yes,
the word you're looking for.
Exactly. Thank you.
Their perspective is so small, and that's what I was trying to say before. You can't okay, how do I put this? I wasn't trying to straw man you before, and I apologize for that. What I was trying to say was, look at YouTube. Someone might say that this generation doesn't deserve YouTube because they watch too many cat videos or something like that. I know that's an oversimplification.
To be fair, someone is trying to start a puppy channel. Just a channel on television where it's just 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year of puppies.
You know what? I don't care. Let them. You know why?
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about what that is. Puppies activate a part of our brain that recognizes neoteny. We like to see cute things.
No, I find it funny. I was like,
yeah, no, that's kind of awesome though.
No, there are too many cat videos. I just heard that on NPR today and cracked it the fuck up. So this guy was like, nature's comedians, 24-hour day programming of puppies. I'm like, well, really? I mean, if you really wanted to pull in the big bucks, you should have gone with kittens. So that's
I think there's this comedian called Frankie Boyle who thinks all these reality shows and like kittens and all that fun stuff, not fun, but stupidly entertaining shit, like, you know, The Voice, American Idol. It's just basically no. Let me just say it's just the government holding a bunch of keys to a brain dead populace going, look at the shiny. It would be much more honest if just had a guy come out on the TV with a bunch of keys and just shake them in front of everybody's fucking stupid drooling faces. Look at the shiny. Don't think about the war. Don't think about how much you're getting fucked in the ass. Look at the shiny. Jingle jangle.
And this is actually, do you mind if I change topics now? Because this is a really good point to bring something in. Have you noticed how much sci-fi is about how scientists are corrupting society with their inventions?
Most sci-fi is that way.
Yeah, there's very few science fiction films where the genius or the scientist is not either the bad guy or the fool. You notice that?
Yeah, I think it's this weird kind of anti-intellectualism in movies too, like how many corrupt, evil scientists they are, and how like the good old country hero, the guy who can't be swayed by all this evil technology, is the main hero.
Well, are you just trying to put as many accents as possible into this
No,
video?
he's doing the same one over and over again. He keeps doing the southern one and the midwestern one. It's funny because the thing we're describing is what happened to monster movies in the 1950s.
How so?
Because what happened was there was this shift. In the early parts of film where monster movies popped up, your Frankensteins, your Islands of your Island of Lost Souls, the scientist is always seen as most of the time. The mad scientist is always seen as the villain because they're doing something that was never in God's plan, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but interestingly enough,
God never intended Dr. Moreau to turn a dog into a person, but he did it.
Yeah,
and that makes him evil.
Yeah,
but there was
interestingly enough.
No, hold on. Let Bill go.
It was just a quick little thing.
No, let Bill go.
Okay, sorry, Bill. Go ahead.
And interestingly enough, that stuck until I'm gonna say 1950, or even I'm gonna go a little later, because The Thing from Another World is widely considered to be a landmark in science fiction in terms of like the way sci-fi movies are supposed to work and monster movies and all that. And that's roughly when the mad scientist cliche started to become a cliche. And I think one of the major first films I can think of, monster movie-wise, that saw the scientist hero born is The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, where, at least to my memory, it's the first time we see a scientist who is not corrupted by what he creates. What he does is he stops a threat by creating a piece of technology. I think it was a nuclear bullet or something. I don't fucking remember, but it was something stupid. But it was a piece of technology. And it was this major shift, and then monster movies ran with it. You had scientific heroes who stopped scientific problems that the military could not stop. You know what I mean? And that was a major
the majority
shift.
of superheroes. You had Superman, who was an alien, and you had Batman, who was, he started out as a detective, but as he went on and on, he became much more of this, genius level intellect that was able to, not only work with criminology, but with also scientific devices. How many times has Batman cured diseases and stuff like that?
Can I say one thing right quick?
Yeah, sure.
I guess, and it's about what we were talking about before, but what you just said just helped me put a cap on it. I guess the reason why it bothered me so much is because I see the modern idiocracy idea much like people. To me, it looks very much like how people looked at, you shouldn't go into God's domain. Right. As in, the people didn't deserve that level of power, or the very... It's different. I know it's different. But to me, that's what it felt like. We wouldn't want that technology because...
I get what you're saying. We wouldn't want the technology because we're not meant to have it.
Yeah, something like that.
That's not what I'm trying to argue. I'm saying that we shouldn't... I'm saying that level of technology is dangerous because people will abuse it to a point that is just ridiculous. The one thing that drives me crazy, and I see this happen almost every day at work, is this guy will finish his job, and instead of going to do something, he will sit there and he will look at the clock, because usually he finishes it within 10 minutes of time he has to leave, right? He'll look at the clock, and he will watch it, and I'll go, what are you doing? I'm just watching the clock. Can't wait to get out of here. Go, oh, why? Something up? No. What are you going to go home and do? I don't know, watch TV? That drives me insane. Yes, work is not fun, but I anything good on? No, probably not. It's like, dude.
Well, hold up, let me... and I know I'm being contentious on this issue, but
I think, sorry guys, just to mention on Ian's little thing, I think it has to do with, I always saw work as penance. I mean, it's like, you go in there, you fucking slave away for minimum wage, but at least you'll have some fucking money. You'll have something to, to fund your personal projects. You can like, I have to work on these extra hours and I'll go buy like a digital camera and make something. But I think, with Ian, it's like, I'll work and I'm bored, and then I'll go home, and then I won't have to work, but I'll still be bored. I think that's kind of lack of imagination.
I guess what I was trying to say is, what would he have been doing if he didn't have a TV? I think he would have just gone to the bar and drank like people used to do after a hard day's work. Those who are creative are going to be creative no matter what, because they are creative. We said it earlier. A lot of other people don't even come close to having these types of thoughts, because that's how they are. The difference is that we can see them. In the past, I had no idea what some douchebag in Cleveland was doing after work. I can know exactly what he's doing because he comes home and blogs about the lack of crap he's doing. That's the only difference. Just like how it seems like there's a whole wave of young girls beating the shit out of each other. You see these videos on the internet where it's like girls smashes other girls' head. But you know what? Teen violence is going down. It's just that we can see that now. Idiocracy. People were always idiots. It's just that we can see it now. It seems like it's more. But the fact
Fair.
that we can see it is probably making less idiots. People see it and are like, I don't want to be that way.
Fair enough, but I'm
Bravo, Alec, bravo.
See,
I
I can
would-
see that argument, but I fear that that's like feel like things are gonna get better before they get worse, if that makes sense. I feel like
no, it doesn't. They're gonna get worse before they get better. But I get what you were saying.
No, that's I said it that way on purpose. I feel like we're gonna see like, okay, well, people are gonna learn from these, like, you know, America's Funniest Home Videos comes out and people learn, okay, don't light your farts on fire. But then there's like another generation where it's like,
Great example, Ian.
No, but I also, another thing that I wanted to say, it's just really just one sentence. Maybe that dude was just tired. That's what it really comes down to. Most people are not boring. They're they're not boring because they're boring. They're boring because they're tired.
no, I
They're
understand.
emotionally tired. They're mentally tired.
No, and I get that. I get that, Alec. But at the same time, he does it every day, and like, I get that his job's hard, and I get that work sucks. But at the same time, it's like, oh, so you got anything planned for this weekend? Nope. the fuck?
Yeah, but
Do
I-
something.
At the same time, I think if he's satisfied with that existence, I don't see a problem with that.
Yeah, to me, abusing
I think
technology
it's,
means
I
causing
think it's just,
conflict where there need not be conflict. That's
Yeah, I think it's just sorry. I think it's just because when people have no prospects and then they complain, "Oh, society is keeping me down, man." No, it's just because you have no prospects and you're a boring motherfucker with no imagination. Go fuck yourself.
okay.
Yeah, but
that's-
I don't think we can. I don't think we can look down on people for that just because we can. You know, we can do that. I think when people complain about that, and they don't do something about it, I think that it's because they weren't. They never learned how. You know what I mean?
All right, I don't know. They're like, you know how you'll like see someone and they're like, got, you know, they're just staring off for whatever reason, and you'll be like, hey, what's up? And they go, oh, just thinking. And then you'll be like, about what? And then they'll say nothing.
I probably don't want to tell you, Ian.
No, but I'm beginning to believe that a large percent of the population just has, you know, white noise going in their head. Like they're being honest. They are literally thinking about nothing. It's just static.
You're thinking, oh, look at the pretty butterfly.
No, this is this is what goes on in the mind of every American, well, the majority of Americans.
Okay.
Well,
Guys,
that's enough.
that's a pretty good point to do this. We got a Skype in from Magpie. He's got a bunch of numbers at the end of his username, so I wanna play this clip for you guys, and we'll react directly to it. So here we go.
Alright guys, here's a message all the way from the land down under, Australia. For your next Geeky gentleman, I'm just wondering, what order do you see these coming in? Or even the possibility that they might even really work. Cryogenics, cloning, space travel, in some form or another. And when I say space travel, I mean outside of our solar system, human space travel. Okay guys, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Magpie. That was good. I'm just gonna. His accent might have thrown people off. Did everyone get the question real quick?
No, you're
Where do we see cryogenics, cloning, and space travel going? I won't take the space travel one. I want to take one of the other two.
Okay, I'll take the space travel one. I think that I think that if you want to look for good investments, look at what sci-fi keeps doing and see who's actually trying to actively make that technology happen and invest in them. That is smart money. It's going to take a while sometimes, but that is smart money because the more something pops up in sci-fi, the more people are dreaming about it and the more people want it to happen. So I think warp drives, they say it's impossible, but someone's going to figure it out.
Who's saying it's impossible?
No, I mean, they say we're never going to travel fast in light. I don't know exactly how the process is going to happen. I think someone's going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Eventually. I think it's the longest term of the three he mentioned, though.
I think
outside
it's-
of solar
I-
system travel.
I think it's just because we, humanity, as a giant an organism in itself, especially in like larger societies. We see like whenever we want something, it gets spread out through the popular culture first. Like, okay, we want to travel through space, and our scientific half of the, as our collective brain starts, quote unquote subconsciously working on these things. Like, okay, everyone's like inspired by this new idea. Like, we want to travel faster than light. So it may take a couple of generations, but eventually, like the iPhone and like cross communication, we will eventually get to that. We will finally reach that aspect of like, yes, we have created this thing. We have fulfilled. It's like a self-fulfilling
We
prophecy.
have fulfilled Razagul's destiny.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a funny example of this actually.
It's a self-fulfilling. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, basically.
Okay, Bill, what you got?
I have a funny example of that exact thing actually. Back in the 1950s, when flying saucers were becoming this very popular idea, whether you believe in them or not, they were a popular idea. And the U.S. government actually tried to build a hovercraft.
I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like the crappiest thing ever because it only went like 5 feet because it took so much energy that it was just like it's not practical at this time. And I don't know, Milan and Ian were just talking about reminding me of that because it's just like because flying saucers are so popular, it's like, oh, the U.S. government was like, we could try that kinda. Let's build a hovercraft, and it's like we got it to go 5 feet. We'll see what happens in 50 years.
Well, I just want my goddamn jetpack. I was promised a jetpack, and I want it.
It's coming. Don't worry.
The jetpack.
It's all.
Have you seen the
It's
water
all-
one? It's actually pretty kick-ass.
Yeah.
I want a jetpack with like a couple of Coke bottles in the back that you just like shake them up and just like you just shoot you in the air.
They did that on Mythbusters. It was funny.
I know, but I want that like I could buy that at Walmart.
I'm pretty sure you can. It's some PVC pipe and some fucking tubulars. There you go, Bill.
In terms of
Good.
to mention cloning, it's important
Whoa, before we move on from the jetpack, Alec told me this once that the jetpack is not. We don't have a jetpack because it's all in the money. It's not that we can make one. It's just like, and we have quite a few, but it's just your jetpacks are in the checkbook. No one's willing to invest in the jetpack. We can create them like the water jetpack. We have made a couple of
Cool.
yeah, especially we have a couple of real ones. It's all nobody's willing to invest in them.
it's not just not being willing to invest. There's also a whole nother amount of money you have to put for lawsuits, because these things are going to be terrifyingly unsafe.
I know, and the thing is, once you create flying
But Alec,
cars,
doesn't that contradict your point from earlier about the consequences of technology?
It- it-
No.
guys, one thing.
I'm
When you introduce flying cars, that means the whole system of traffic has to be redone from the ground up. Because sure, you can, it's easy to direct traffic when everyone's on the ground, but when you have like a bunch of basic rockets with your average Joe on the inside flying around, like
They're actually doing
that's
that.
terrible. I know, you've got to fucking completely redo the whole thing,
It's
retrain
funny.
every driver.
They already did phase 1 of switching the air traffic control lanes over. The air traffic control lanes actually work a little different now. There's, high level. They basically separated small aircraft lanes from large aircraft lanes. They're basically working up to the point where we're going to have many more things. They're changing how air traffic control works in general. It's just a very slow process. And
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it now. There's legislation, I believe, in the House right now to change it because of drones.
yeah, exactly.
Drones are becoming more
Drones,
popular.
small aircraft are becoming more popular, especially the ones you can build. Just a lot of things, and there needs to be a way to track smaller aircrafts more easily because of the fear of terrorism, which I think is exaggerated simply because, well, other reasons. I'm not saying terrorism doesn't happen, it's just...
No, what are you talking about? 9/11 was an inside job.
Oh no.
I'm a truther, guys. This is the time to confess it. Also, it was velociraptors with helicopters.
I agree. It probably was.
God damn it.
I would not be surprised.
Ian, man, if you suddenly disappear, you can't just say shit like that. You're jeopardizing the future of Geek Gentlemen, because you will disappear for saying that shit.
I know a Velociraptor's just gonna come in here in the night and kill me, but not like with his claws or anything. He's gonna use, this untraceable poison.
He's gonna use a silent sniper, and he's gonna pull off his mask as the fucking Velociraptor. It's like,
Hey, don't joke about reptilians, okay? Raptor Jesus died for your sins, and you're joking about this. It's.
I'm offended.
It's okay, Raptor. Just they didn't mean it. It's interesting because go ahead, Alec.
I was gonna say the cloning. It's important to differentiate. There's two different principles of cloning. One they call genetic cloning, which I guess it's all genetic, but basically that's where you clone a new thing that's completely alive, you make a new person. And then there's something called therapeutic cloning, which can be anything from cloning a few cells to close a wound, or this woman actually, they found a way to make scaffolding of a person's throat, like it's some sort of soapy substance it was made from a type of soap, and they went through so many substances that actually keeps the shape of all the capillaries, and then they use your own cells to basically clone your throat. And there's a woman walking around with a cloned trachea. It's her own trachea. They took her DNA, made a sort of flesh-like scaffolding, carbon-based scaffolding, and then cloned her DNA so that as her DNA was going throughout it, it grew throughout the artificial throat and basically made a new throat. They've done it with mouse hearts too.
Okay, well, actually, I think the cloning issue. I mean, that's for body harvesting. I think the cloning issue is really more about full-scale people clones, as it were. Now, I know I think there are two ways to make a full replica of a living being at the moment. One of them is to basically recreate the process from birth. But is there another way that's escaping? Like, I know there are two. That's the only one I can.
Growth acceleration.
Well,
you're talking about making someone from scratch. That is to say, making a full-grown person.
Yeah.
I imagine you would just have to tell the RNA to start building. Because remember, your body's doing that now. Your body is your body is rewriting your body is making your DNA, and it's replacing your old cells as they die.
Well, what I'm asking, I know we did the sheep, and that was done by taking the sheep's DNA and inserting it into inserting it into an egg to fertilize it, and it recreated a genetic match of the sheep. That's not the same thing. When we think cloning, we think, we take a drop of your blood or a piece of your hair, put it into this magical machine, and then out walks you.
Well,
yeah, it's like the current
they
you.
Did that with that trachea. The trachea or a heart or the mice heart, those weren't the point. That was the point of doing. That was what was amazing. That it was a test tube grown thing. They grew.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, could that process apply to an entire person? As
probably in 100, 200, 300 years. But again, the cloning question always confuses me, because my question is always why. I'm not quite sure why you would make for instance, why would anyone make another Alec? And if they did, they don't have my memories. That's impossible.
No, Alec.
Right.
Popular use is for organ harvesting. The other one that's, I don't know, it's a little sci-fi, but hell, I mean, this has been used 1,000 times. We create a clone of the president.
Yeah, that's another one too. It's like, I've heard people say, oh, let's clone, George Washington and have him fix the modern problems. And it's just like
why are black people walking on the streets?
No, but what I don't get is that doesn't clone your memories. So I
don't know what that means. It's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah, you
no,
wouldn't.
I mean,
or you wouldn't.
I know you're joking, but the problem is like the Jurassic Park thing. Like, it just doesn't work that way. Let's say you could clone a full-grown. Basically, you would just be making a person that looks like you.
Yeah.
It has no utility whatsoever.
No, Alec, the Jurassic Park things were born. The dinosaurs in Jurassic Park weren't cloned, fully grown. They were born in eggs.
Yeah, no. What I mean is, I meant the Jurassic Park thing as in, there's things that are, like, in the way that you can't clone a raptor from mosquito got DNA, you can't make a copy of a person that has the memories as far as we're aware. So what we have is basically a new person.
Here's an interesting question, because a lot of scientists, or a lot of psychologists, psychiatrists will tell you that a lot of your personality comes down to chemical interactions. A clone of you would have those same chemical interactions, so they might not have the same memories to build up the same person, but would they act in similar ways?
Oh, they might. They might.
I don't know.
Most of what we are is, well, actually, all of what we are is memory and brain chemistry. You know, nature and nurture. If you take half of that away, well, I guess we definitely have an answer to how much of a person is nature and nurture. That is, how much is just your brain chemistry and how much is just your memories. That's an interesting set of experiments. But I don't think there's as much of a difference as people think, because as we grow, things that, for instance, a person can become a sociopath if they have too many experiences that make them have to suppress their emotions. Basically, as you grow, your brain atrophies the part of your mind that feels compassion. So I suppose if you made a clone of someone, if you're at that point,
sociopath, yeah, they might not be one, or like that's the thing is, all right, let's say, all right, I'm trying to think of a gesture I do. Okay, I have a goatee, and I often find myself in the classic philosophical line stroking my beard. Now, that would arguably be something that's done. Let's say it's not from influence of seeing philosophers stroke their beards, but from a genetic thing in my head. You know, the chemical interactions, electric impulses that I only understand on a completely novice level. So we clone Ian, and this new Ian.
That's a horrible idea, by the way.
No, it's not. It'd be awesome.
Terrible idea.
This new Ian happens to have the same kind of hair and facial hair that I have, and he starts stroking his beard. Do you think that's something that's believable to happen? Would a clone of you start to develop your same mannerisms, assuming those are associated with brain chemistry?
Yes.
One question. If somebody did clone Milan and they removed the
Another terrible idea.
No. Let me explain. See, if somebody cloned me and basically removed the predisposition for schizophrenia, and who would you get? I mean, telling the truth. No, it's you get like the person who.
A new, slightly more balanced person, depending on how you treat them after that point.
I know,
but I think we're making it more mysterious than it actually is.
No. I mean, let me think about it. Let me explain. Basically, I have history of schizophrenia in my family, but if you take Milan and you give him exactly the same, childhood, but you remove the predisposition for schizophrenia, would you just get a really depressive guy, like a really boring guy? Because I'm really willing to admit that schizophrenia, defined me. It really shaped my psychological makeup.
Well, yeah, the fact that you had schizophrenia is a big part of your life. You lived your life because you had that. So if you got rid of that, your life would be very different.
Mm-hmm. And who would that person be?
Like if let's say I have a brother who suffers from Duchenne muscular dystrophy, he can't walk. If he didn't have that, I would live a very different life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's an effect of one tiny, or not even tiny, just one little thing in your life has a ripple effect where
chaos theory.
Precisely. Yeah. Another Jurassic Park idea.
There's no way we could know that, Milan, because we don't know. Like, to say the same instances happen in your life, well, unless we have like a Truman Show situation and we have some sort of way to mitigate the ripple effect and still force certain things to occur, I think his life would be very different very quickly. At least how he interacts with your family. It would be a very different. It might be worse.
See, he calls child services day one because like this shit is fucked up. That was a really cruel joke. I'm sorry.
Milan's gonna go cut himself now.
Fuck you, Bill. Fuck you. I'm never gonna cut myself.
No,
I
just,
find it as an insult. If you really think so little of me, I would fucking harm myself. Fuck you.
no, that's just the idea. Just Milan's like, we take away Milan's insanity, and he just realizes, like, he realizes as a toddler objectively that his family is insane, and he's just, the fuck is up with these people?
Dude,
Oh my.
I already knew that, like, when I was little. God.
Yeah, but the fact is you were insane, so you didn't think, oh, I should do something about this. You're like, okay, this is just life.
Well, I think that's a child thing anyway.
Mhm.
I think that a child raised in that environment, not knowing anything beyond that, wouldn't know that's fucked up, because what's not fucked up?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha. All right, well, let's move on from the cloning debate then, because it is a wonderfully interesting idea, and it's something that's happening. You know, like 30, well, not 30, because it was very much in the talks 30 years ago. 100 years ago, cloning was just as much science fiction as fucking lightsabers. But let's talk about cryogenics. I think cryogenics is going to happen before either of those two.
It's already happened.
Cloning in a large scale, you know, the way we think of cloning. When you say cloning, no one thinks, oh, constructing a trachea. You know, when you say cloning, you think of looking at yourself.
Yeah, that's called complete genetic cloning.
Yeah.
There is a word for the other cloning. It's called therapeutic cloning, where you do.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, when you say cloning,
you
what
need
we're
full genetic. Yeah, I agree. No one even wants that other type of cloning. It's just a bad idea that there literally is no practical application. The other cloning,
Well, you can get like a fully incorruptible police force.
No, probably not. But that's a whole nother. No one knows how to do that or even what that would mean. So again, no one's looking for that.
Yeah.
Right now, that's not.
Let's move on to cryogenics. Cryogenics is what I think obviously has it's going to happen very soon. You know, the only thing that's really holding up cryogenics right now is debate in the law system. Really, you know, of whether or not we should let people, because it can very easily turn into euthanasia, whether or not we should allow people to stop their heartbeat.
Which is pretty stupid. We should. First, I think we should be allowed to let people euthanize themselves anyway. It's like, I'm sorry, it's their body. It's not.
Here's a riddle for you, and it's going to be a really easy riddle to solve since we're talking about euthanasia. But what crime is illegal to attempt, but you will not be prosecuted if you succeed?
Larceny.
No.
Think
about
suicide, obviously.
Yeah, suicide. I like that riddle. Anyway,
You like the word suicide?
no, I like the riddle.
Oh, okay. I was like, that's scary, Ian.
No,
likes the
suicide
word
has a nice
suicide.
ring to it. Kind of rolls off the tongue. Suicide.
Just like homicide. I love the word homicide.
I think I might go commit it.
Though manslaughter sounds so much worse, even though it's supposed to be less
Doesn't
bad.
it though?
Genocide. God, that's a cool word.
Yeah, it's like manslaughter. That sounds like you slaughtered someone like a pig.
Yeah,
You know?
I like mass hysteria. I like the word mass hysteria. It makes me think of joy.
Okay. Anyway,
Oh.
but yeah, cryogenics. The one that's holding up cryogenics right now the most is a legal battle over whether or not it should be okay for you to stop your own heartbeat, voluntarily end your own heartbeat. Because the thing is, by definition, cryogenics, you must stop living temporarily. And temporarily might be 2,000 years for all we know. But yeah, cryogenics is definitely going to happen first. It's likely to be the very first way in which we do long-term space travel.
Yeah, and that's one thing that sci-fi explores a lot, because it's obviously a lot closer to us currently than traveling at the speed of light. Because in the way that it's presented to most people, the only way to beat, the time it would take to travel to Mars would be, cryogenics, or being able to travel at the same, to be able to travel relative, I'm trying to say like traveling, taking 10
At light
minutes to get
speed or close to light speed, yeah.
It's one of those things where it's hard to describe, you know what I mean? Because there's so many words that sound similar. Like, we're going to travel at light speed to beat the speed of light.
Yeah.
The interesting about light speed travel is because It's just because it's kind of takes in the idea of time travel, because if you travel faster than the speed of light, you stay the same age, but the time basically you go to another
relativistic
planet.
time.
Yeah. But so
Yeah,
it's
because
basically
when you look up at the
you
stars,
find a
those
suitable.
stars are thousands of years old.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
So basically, but you find a suitable planet to to go to if when Earth gets engulfed by the sun, and then you go back to Earth and the human race has died out. And it's like, what do you do from then? It's like, fuck, that was a waste.
Well,
of
no,
fucking
that's when
time.
you deal with the Planet of the Apes, and you have to sit there and try to explain that humans have culture too, and it just gets really convoluted
No.
and very annoying.
Humans are just.
And then
humans are
Charlton
just
Heston
dead.
runs out of a cave and tries to shoot down a gorilla, then threatens to kill Maurice Evans, and it's a big.
And
mess.
then you see the Statue of Liberty, and like you were waiting for it the whole damn movie because you've only seen that scene before, and then you're kind of frustrated that it's right at the end.
And then they have these really epic closing credits where the credits roll over the sound of the waves crashing. And then there was a decent sequel that not a lot of people like, but I find interesting. We took this too far.
No,
Bill's
just
like,
people
Bill-
are dead. Just like there's no more humanity. Or wipe themselves out.
I heard an
You
interesting.
blow it up, you maniac!
There's an interesting. I heard an interesting theory once, and you guys can debate whether or not you think it's actually going to happen. But I thought it was just kind of cool. The theory was that if the scenario happened where we all bombed the crap out of each other and we would all be dead, that really the only couple animals that would survive would be stuff like rats, and that they would evolve over time to be like the next in the same way that mammals evolve from one.
Well, mammals. Rats are mammals.
No, I know, but I mean like one kind of mammal turned into a bunch of different kinds of mammals. You know what I mean?
I got it. Yeah.
There was one reptile during the Triassic period that kind of had mammalistic features that turned into us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. Go on though. Move on.
So the idea was that a rat would turn into multiple species of rats that would turn into multiple species of mammals. You would start off with rats, and then they would get bigger, and would eventually turn into stuff like saber-toothed rats and herbivore rats that would graze on giant fields, and then you would get like armored rats, and then
Is there
it
any
would just.
doubt that that would happen? Because that's absolutely how evolution works. If there's
Well,
a
it
niche-
is. Well, it is. I'm just saying that specific scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
would happen.
Right.
The reason I say it definitely would is only because if the environment is close enough to the one we have now, there are only so many ways in which there is an optimal way to eat grass. Therefore, if those mutations ever occur, they will be selected for.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
But
So,
Bill, are you going toward anything else? Are you saying rats are going to be the new basis for the most?
No, I was just expressing a theory. I heard that sounded cool to me. I was like, that sounds.
I don't know.
awesome.
Stephen Hawking made a
I
point.
want to see that as a movie. I want to see Walking with Giant Rats.
Now, see,
That just sounds
Stephen
awesome.
Hawking made a point that I really enjoyed. He goes, I'm not exactly sure intelligence is beneficiary from an evolutionary perspective. Microbial life has been going without it for quite a long time, and they seem to be doing fairly well. I was like, yeah, he's got a point. Intelligence, I mean, how many times have we come close to blowing ourselves up? North Korea right now.
Well, you can't really associate intelligence and North Korea. I mean, those two that's
Oh,
an
Jesus.
oxymoron.
Well, no, the thing is, intelligence defined as the ability to rationalize, even if that rationalizing is completely flawed from a logical perspective.
Oh, okay.
I defined intelligence as tool use or communication, known communication.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
It depends on what you mean by beneficial. Remember that.
Beneficial from an evolutionary perspective, as in surviving and mating and continuing on.
Well, the only way to judge that is are humans surviving?
Yeah, but I mean, the point that he's making is we've almost killed ourselves so many times in such a small amount of history. You know, we've only had truly what we would consider intelligent life for, 2,000-3,000 years? And, well, no, what long was that? 6,000 years? And, we've almost blown ourselves up just a couple thousand years into that. That's ridiculous. You know,
We don't have a frame of reference, though. For all we know, For all we know, there were 20 other times where various things could have killed us, or we got what I mean is we got to be careful not to compare it, because we have a sample size of 1. We don't know. For all we know, what we've done is amazing. We exercised unbelievable self-control and didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing though. That's Hawking's point. Is he's not sure that intelligence is beneficial from an evolutionary perspective because we've come so close to blowing ourselves up before. How do we know that other races that developed intelligence didn't? He's
okay,
not sure
I
that,
see what you're saying.
Yeah, he's not sure that evolution, that intelligence is truly that beneficial for evolution.
Like the lights going black that Carl Sagan talked about, that there are maybe civilizations that just when they're about to rise, you see their planet and all the lights go off because they destroyed themselves. That threshold that we're on. I agree. I think once if we survive that threshold, intelligence is a gamble because you can destroy yourself, or you could actually make yourself undestroyable. Because if you can get to the point where you're spread out enough that one supernova can't kill you, there is essentially nothing in the universe that could kill you at one point. That is to say, there have to be many different incidences. The only thing that could kill you if you are in if you are a species that is in multiple systems is a supernova, because that can wipe out a whole sector. You know what I mean? So if your species becomes spread out enough to avoid a supernova, that is, no one supernova can kill you, then your species is essentially immortal in the sense that your whole species cannot get wiped out. There is nothing in nature that can just destroy you in one fell swoop.
Unless of course the universe implodes. Unless of course you discover time travel, then go back in time and become your own grandfather, thus creating a paradox and destroying the entire universe.
Or we find out that
one more thing that's amazing. A lot of people think that the whole particle collider, that everyone was afraid that there was going to be a black hole. In actuality, you would need a particle collider about the size of Mount Everest to even come close to producing that amount of energy.
I don't know, did you ever hear about the guy that they arrested because he was trying to destroy the particle collider? When they were talking to him, he's like, I'm a time traveler, and this is going to fuck up everything.
That's awesome. Well, here's the thing. Here's why, what ended
That's
up
awesome. That guy's insane. That's so cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
What if he's not insane? That's even terrible. That's terrifying.
No, it's funny. I was just watching 12 Monkeys today, and that's the exact plot of 12 Monkeys, except instead of a particle collider, it's a disease. Bruce Willis goes back in time. They put him in a mental institution, and like that's the big problem you'd have if you were time travelers, is what happens if you go back in time and no one believes you.
But that's the thing. You're gonna bring back some small futuristic technology to prove it.
Yeah, you gotta have a book that has all the outcomes of every sporting event. No one laughs at that joke? Fine. Nope.
let me say something real quick. The amazing thing is, that's actually not what the scientists were worried about. You know, well, that was one thing someone said, and that was the only thing the media could actually understand, so they went with that. Here's what scientists were actually worried about, and this is amazing. You know how the whole Schrodinger's cat thing, that until you observe it, the wave function doesn't collapse, and it could be one or the other? Yeah. Scientists were literally worried that if we find the Higgs boson, we could collapse the wave function on the universe. That is, the universe was reliant on us not observing that. That's actually what scientists were worried about.
We worry about this
interview. Someone was talking about that. They're like, well, what if the Higgs boson keeps changing so that we can't find it, so that the universe will not implode on itself? It's protecting itself from itself. And I was at the point where I'm like, guys, come on, just accept it. It doesn't exist. It's like that's until they found the Higgs boson. I was so sure that was wrong, because so many times and throughout the epochs of history, we get scientists so sure of themselves because their numbers work, and that always bugs me. You know, like people always like how important science is, and I'm not going to deny it is, but people they lose sight of, you know, they lose humility because since they can prove string theory with the numbers, we can prove it by running these numbers and making these very little assumptions, then we know string theory must be the case. But I could do that with a, you know, Earth-based model of the universe, you know? With the Earth as the center of the universe, they ran the numbers and they totally worked with just a couple of assumptions. So that's something science.
We didn't think there were well, that's usually the way it works, though. There are proponents of string theory, and then there are, because all scientists didn't accept that. Like membrane theory.
No, I agree, and that's the thing. But for the longest times, it's that way because the numbers work, and like you forget that you can use I don't trust math because math can justify anything if you look at it the right way. You know?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they
No,
weren't.
I don't trust math. That should be on a t-shirt. I don't
No, I
trust
don't. Math is not real. It bugs me. People act like it's the most important thing in the world. They don't recognize how much of it is completely in your head. Without a recognition of that, it becomes dangerous. Anyway.
Well, here's the thing. It wasn't just math, though. There were things we could test.
No, and I agree.
If it was just purely math, then yeah, I'd see what you mean. But
no, I mean,
I'm sure there were a lot of scientists who were like that. But
Alex, here's the thing. With the Earth-based model of the solar system, it worked. It was that way for so long because it looked like it was empirical, right? When you think about it from the Earth-based, so it actually, to be honest, the Earth-based thing from purely empirical data makes a lot more sense given the context of the times, you know?
No, that's true, but understand something. At that time, there were also scientists who were like, well, no, not at that time. A little later, some scientists were like, well, science is almost done. We almost figured everything out. That has more to, but as science has gone on, they realized that's not the case. It's just like the technology thing. It was people who had just learned what science is. They were overwhelmed by it. They had this power suddenly that they had never had. I think scientists are a lot more wise now. I don't hear that much. You know, scientists are excited about how much they don't know.
And I agree.
It was just a sort of religious way of thinking that everyone had back then.
So, and I agree. I'm just saying. I think that's the biggest problem I have with the scientific and the mathematical community is they get so sure of themselves, but they forget that these are constructs of the human psyche built up over decades as a coping mechanism to living in a universe in which we cannot control. And that's something that bugs me. Is like I hate when I hear the sentence, "We use math every day. It's the most important thing ever." It's an idea. It's just a really complex one, and it happens to work. That's why it's stuck around so long. It bugs me when I hear it. And science gets very much the same way. The string theory and the theory of relativity are the most important fundamental parts. They're very useful. I would not be surprised if they turn out to be wrong 200-300 years from now.
Well, I mean, most scientists say they're most certainly wrong.
Oh yeah, exactly.
The way science works is you just find something that better explains what is the case.
Mm-hmm. And I agree. It's just that's the thing is it's important to remain humble, and it bugs me when I
and most
say
people
most
don't.
scientists.
There's a sort of arrogance happening right now that's reactionary. I'm not blaming religion for this, but right now scientists have a knee-jerk reaction to defend science at all cost because there's actually legitimate attacks on science.
Yeah, I agree.
So it could be not so much their arrogance. I know I sound like that sometimes when I'm arguing with a religious person because they're fucking retarded half the time. Not always, but half the time their arguments are retarded. And it gets so frustrating. It's like,
and that's not that it's a religious person. That's a dumb person that's committed to an ideology, and that's all. And you know, you get people like that with science, and I hate when people argue atheism, and they think they're smart just because they're an atheist, simply for the fact that they're an atheist. They're smarter than you. I despise those people. I hate those more than religious zealots, you know? Because at least if you're a religious zealot, there's something to base the idea that you're important on from your perspective. But if you're like, I'm an atheist, so I'm smart, there's nothing to base that on. You realized an objective truth from your perspective. Okay, so
We will one day
Yeah.
find out that the universe is not run by God. It's not random. That it's actually just like a marble and a bag of marbles and like I don't know.
Bill, shut up. Everybody knows that the universe is just a bunch of turtles, bigger and bigger, stacked on one another.
duh. I mean, really, why are we even
Yeah,
having
what
this
the-
conversation?
It-
This
the
stupid,
universe is-
there are galaxies and there.
Yeah,
No,
it's-
come on.
The
There's no
universe is just an infinite layer of gradually bigger turtles.
Of
stacked with one
increasingly
another.
larger turtles.
The universe is an infinite stack of increasingly larger turtles.
Yeah, I
You gotta get into it. You gotta let your voice kind of like go on different peaks.
Oh my god, I love that line. So
Bill,
funny.
you should totally. Are you in any astronomy classes right now?
Fuck no.
Oh, that's too bad. That's what you should do. Like keep. You were telling me about those quotes on your classroom board, that you keep changing. Or
Oh, I should so do that.
wait until somebody just wait until one of them says like the universe is more complex than we would ever know. Psh, are you kidding me? The universe is an infinite stack of increasingly larger turtles. Everybody knows that. Why is there still argument? Stephen Hawking is a hack.
And they're all named Gamera. No, the interesting.
Gamera is the smallest one.
Gamera is the smallest one. Oh my god. Here's the interesting thing about just perception. To throw out there some grounding ideas. The way, and I'm not trying to knock anyone in this case. I'm just like making an object. I think that one of you actually pointed this out anyway, but I just want to kind of enforce that I agree. The idea of science being, or the way science is now, our theories now, are the end-all be-all thing that this is going to persuade throughout all of history. I think that there were probably a wide majority of people back in ancient Greece who actually thought that there was a guy up there throwing down lightning bolt-shaped spears.
Oh yeah.
And they felt the same way about that we do about something.
And he looks surprisingly like Liam Neeson. Sorry.
And they feel the same way about that as we do about something like evolution. I just find that extremely interesting, and very few people think about it.
Oh yeah, the connection with evolution is a dogma, just like Catholicism. See, that's an argument that's made from creationists that evolution.
Yeah, and I'm
is
not saying I'm making
crazy.
that argument. I'm just saying it's an interesting argument to think about.
It happens, and part of it's a defense mechanism. But I mean, if evolution is to be proved wrong one day, which I mean it probably will, but it's not going to come down to a single intelligent designer that has created all life forms in the way in which they exist now.
We gotta be careful what language you use, because evolution is the theory of evolution is how it happens, not that it happens. You can't prove
No, I
something.
mean, I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Look
Well,
at it
that's-
to see. You know
No, I'm
what
just saying. I'm being facetious. I'm saying that there's. God, please microphone if you're going.
It was like we're about to reach like this climax of argument, and then someone drops their microphone.
Yeah. No, it's just,
Sorry.
evolution is the way it exists now. The way it's been formulated now is one day likely going to be proven to be inaccurate. When I say wrong, it's just because going to be proven to be inaccurate is a lot to say. It's a podcast. I can be brief. I'm not publishing a paper.
I think I think it's because this whole knee-jerk reaction to defending evolution is just we don't want to give the creationists like even a single leg up, because it's like there's doubts and they're just gonna go out and take that tiny little nugget of like your little quote and say this famous fucking scientist says that evolution may be proven wrong, thus proving my non-fucking sensible
Yeah,
view
I
that,
agree. Actually, Richard Dawkins, as much as I do not like that man, when he's great when he's talking about evolution. Anything else, I cannot stand to listen to him. But he did make one really good point when he was he was at a conference full of all these different evolutionary scientists, and he goes, creationists are complaining that we're not allowing, that the scientific community is blocking any kind of idea that isn't evolution. That there are other theories of life that we are holding down. So I want to open the floor right now to everyone here that is a biologist. What is another theory of life? Any crazy, any idea, we are not going to shoot it down at all. And no one had any theory of life that is not evolution. Who's got one?
Yeah.
And no one had anything to say.
I think that there were invisible.
Ian, you don't like Richard Dawkins? Why?
Listen, I don't like Richard Dawkins because he took the ontological argument and made it a farce. And he takes theological arguments that are truly genius just from a logical perspective, and then spends seconds on them dismissing them away. And then when you call his ass on it, he goes, "Oh well, I'm just concerned with the population that wants to, the population of religion."
What? I might.
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, you can formulate any argument to sound amazingly brilliant, but that doesn't mean it's a valid argument. Philosophy.
No,
I get it. It's just Ian's, internal philosopher going, "You motherfucker."
No. The thing is, you have these genius philosophical and theological arguments that are wonderfully complex and very interesting and are logically valid. All right, they have been proven logically valid. All right, and Richard Dawkins will spend 2 seconds on them, dismiss it, and act like he's better than it. And then when you call him on it, he'll say, "Oh well, I'm just concerned with the population that's trying to bring down science and stuff." And I'm like, well, then you can't claim to be an atheist. If you're only concerned with the definition of God as the bearded magical man in the sky, then no, that's not an argument for atheism. That's an argument against one dumb interpretation of a theological constant. I'm sorry. You need to broaden your argument if you're going to write a book called The God Delusion. You need to
I
be
guess
able
this
to...
is where you and I depart, because I haven't heard a specific concept of God.
Have you heard the ontological argument?
Yeah, I've heard the ontological argument, and again, you can philosophically formulate almost any argument.
I like the ontological argument. I like that it gives a definition of God, which is very rare.
Are you talking about the one that... Because I get all the arguments mixed up because...
Here, let me formulate it. It's really easy. I'm going to use Descartes' language, even though this is... Anselm was the first to really do it well, but Descartes put the language much briefer. God is a being of infinite perfection. And something that is infinitely perfect must therefore exist, because if something is infinitely perfect, then existence is a more perfect form than is non-existence.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that argument. I'm sorry, I'm with Dawkins on that.
No, that is
the
that is
first
a
premise
wonderful...
has a problem. Why is existence better than non-existence? I mean, we as animals decide that because we have biological impulses to keep our DNA going, but right there is an assumption. To exist is better than to not exist.
Okay, well, argue as to why non-existence is better.
No, I'm not saying non-existence is better. I'm saying
no, but that's the thing. That's the assumption, and it's a logical assumption that we make every day, so it's therefore true as far as the rules of logic go. That it is better to exist.
Say that again, because I didn't say
logical. No, if non-existence is a more perfect state.
No,
then...
I didn't say it was. I'm saying...
No, but here's the argument, Alec. If non-existence is a more perfect state than existence, then God therefore would not exist. But the problem is, we make the assumption every day that we are living and therefore existing, that existence is a more preferable state than non-existence. That is why we fear death.
I don't get it.
I'm sorry.
Alec, that's just Alec.
We don't
Alec,
do
that's
that.
Just,
No,
Alec,
no,
that's just that's Ian's
answer.
inner philosophy. That's just Ian's philosophy.
No, it's not an inner philosopher thing. It's the idea that you're... And it's not even the ontological argument. The ontological argument doesn't matter. That's just the one that pisses me off the most. He takes these brilliant theological arguments and then dismisses them in a second, doesn't spend any time thinking about them, and then when you call him on it, he goes, "Oh, well, I'm not really concerned with the theological..."
See, that's what I don't get. I don't agree with the idea, call him on it. I think he genuinely disagrees with you. Because I don't think that's as brilliant as you think it is.
No, it doesn't matter if it's not as brilliant as I think it is. He gives an argument that isn't an argument at all. It's childish. It's stupid. And then he dismisses it. And then you go, well, what about this argument? You barely spent any time on it. And he goes, instead of crafting a better argument, instead of actually thinking about the issue like it deserves, he dismisses it away as saying, "Oh well, I don't really care about that side of theology. I just wanted to address it briefly because
yeah,
my
but that's the problem. You think it deserves that. He doesn't. He's not.
No, it's not that he doesn't think it's not that he doesn't think it deserves it. Is that he's concerned with the part of the population that thinks God is a bearded man in the sky, and he's claiming at the same time to be an atheist. So if you're going to say God does not exist, you have to prove definitively in good arguments that God does not exist. You can't just argue against the weakest argument.
Okay, hold up. You mean, what are you defining atheist as? Because to me, atheist lacks a belief in a God. I mean, yeah, there's the other definition, but Dawkins himself said that he's only like 6'5" on the atheist scale.
Yeah, I know, but at the same time, that's a cop-out in my opinion.
How is it a cop-out? He's saying how he feels about the...
That's a cop-out, because you can't write a book called The God Delusion and then turn around and say, now I really don't believe in God, but as a scientist, I have to keep an open mind. No, I mean, he's obviously just saying that to save face to a certain point, and his argument's consistent.
That doesn't make any... that doesn't actually make any sense. That's like saying... That's like if I take the most common explanation of what a genie is, and I just tell you all the reasons why that's fucking retarded. Yeah, there might be like 7 dudes who have an absolutely brilliant idea of a genie, but that's not what I was thinking of when I was talking about genies. Your idea of a genie...
But at the same time, Alec, if you're going to claim that A does not exist, you can't just go with the... go argument A exists because...
Atheism is not claiming that A does not exist. It's saying you're claiming that A...
Let me finish, alright? Here's the argument that he's doing, okay? A does not exist, is what he's making. Here's the argument, and let's do the counter-argument. Here's the argument for why A exists. A exists because we believe in it. Well, no, that doesn't work because your beliefs do not constitute existence. Fair enough, that's an argument against that thing. But if there's this other argument, this wonderfully complex and really well thought out argument that works logically, and you try to argue against it with, that really doesn't work, that doesn't hold up, it's stupid, I'm just gonna move on. I'm not really concerned with that because that's just not the argument I'm concerned with.
I guess what we disagree with is it doesn't sound I guess if you're a philosophy major, then it's amazing and deep, but the first assumption is an unfound assumption.
No, it's not.
You're saying that we assume life is better. You know what? Not everyone does, and we do because we're animals. It's not an intellectual thing.
You make the assumption that life... You make the assumption that it is better to exist than to not exist. Every single second you live. You make the assumption that it is preferable to exist than to not exist.
Okay, you're right. I make that assumption. I wouldn't try to use that assumption in an argument. Like, I wouldn't be like I also make, an assumption is not an argument. Whether I make that assumption all the time...
Every argument is based on assumptions.
Okay, certainly that's the case, but they're more than just You're like, we make that assumption all the time. That has nothing to do with what I just said. I said that it is an assumption, and you're like, we make that assumption all the time. Okay, but
if it's an assumption that everyone makes constantly at all times, not just every person, every friggin' animal that has ever existed.
Animals that are not sentient don't make assumptions. They don't work on
Well, now we gotta define sentience, so I'm not gonna get into that. The thing is, if it is not more perfect than to exist than not to exist, then
perfect
I don't know how I can...
Makes sense. The concept of perfect is flawed. Perfect?
That doesn't matter.
Perfect?
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, Alec. What you're arguing against is a better argument than he gives.
He doesn't have to give a better argument.
No, he does have to give a better argument.
No, he does not. That's retarded. That's like saying I have to give a better argument about...
No, listen. Here's the argument he gave. Here's the argument he gave against the ontological argument. Okay, he outlines the ontological argument as is more preferable to exist than not to exist. My bad. He outlines the ontological argument as the thing that is infinitely perfect exists because existence is a more perfect form than non-existence. Okay, then something that's also perfect, or something that's a better accomplishment, is to accomplish something with great adversities. The greatest adversity we can ever imagine the greatest accomplishment we can ever imagine is to create the universe. The greatest adversity to this accomplishment would be not to exist. Therefore, God does not exist. That was the argument he gave. I kind of fudged up a little bit trying to get it out quickly, but that's the argument he gave about it, and it's stupid. That is a dumb argument.
Okay, I'll agree there. It's a dumb argument to answer a dumb argument. Sorry, I don't agree that that argument is brilliant.
Descartes used that argument in the same breath of "I think, therefore I am."
That's awesome. He made a good argument. We only hear about their best hits, so to speak. We don't hear about all their.
The ontological argument is his best hit. If you don't use the ontological argument to define the existence of God, that's fine, but it is a logically valid argument.
I'm sure, but okay. Like, why is it his responsibility to answer that argument?
Because if you're going to dismiss it, then you have to dismiss it well. You can't just give a dumb argument and say, well, I'm not really concerned with that argument. Then
you absolutely can just dismiss it. You don't
No,
owe
you can't.
anyone
You
that.
just dismiss an
He
entire
wrote the God delusion about a specific type of God. It wasn't the philosopher's God delusion.
No, he didn't though. He said that no God exists. So you can't say no God exists and then say, well, I'm not really concerned with that definition. That's dumb.
And then later when he says, you gotta pick one, dude. You can't say, he can say that, and then when he clarifies, it's like, what I actually mean, I'm using abrasive language, but what I actually mean is I'm 6.5 on the scale, and it's like, oh, that's a cop-out. It's one or the other. Either he can say that, or when he changes his thing to be more specific on what he actually means.
He can't make an argument that no gods exist, and then when you confront him with, well, you didn't really argue against this, you just threw this out the window because you didn't want to spend your book on it. So could you actually argue against this? I'm not concerned with that.
But he didn't make an argument, like, he said it that way, but he said, he's not a positive atheist, he's a de facto atheist. He's the most abrasive, kind of asshole-ish one. Like, he does what a lot of angry atheists do. It's like, there's no God, when actually what you really mean is, there's really no actual evidence to support this claim.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a kind of the douchiest version of a de facto atheist, but that is what he is. He's not a positive anti-theist.
Yeah, but the thing is, the way he structures his arguments as if he is. You can't write a book called The God Delusion, say no gods exist.
The God concept, it's the God delusion. That's what he's talking about. The Christian God is a delusion. It's not based on the ontological argument.
But you can't address the ontological argument, dismiss it away with a dumb argument, and then when you're confronted with the ontological argument based on, hey, you're saying that no gods exist, so how do you really reconcile this and not joke about it, and then say, well, I'm not really concerned with that at all. You can't say no A's exist. Here's a good argument for A. I'm not really concerned with that argument. That's a dumb point.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I agree with him that the argument isn't as brilliant as you think it is. I mean, it's a good argument. It's hard to get out of just the way it's structured, but like you said with math, philosophy can do the same thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing, that's why philosophy never goes anywhere, because we just spend... I mean, this was Anselm. He was the archbishop at one point. He was one of the first archbishops, actually, and this argument's still plaguing philosophy.
That's one thing. He might have dismissed it the same way you dismiss, the whole bow and arrow thing where the arrow should never reach the target.
You're talking about Zeno. Yeah, you're talking about Zeno. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like...
Ian,
I think the reason he...
Ian. You're the person who admitted earlier in the video that philosophy was bullshit.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree it is. It doesn't change the fact that if you're going to argue against a philosophical argument, that you have to do a good argument. Milan, what you're doing is a philosophical fallacy of the it's a version of the ad hominem. You're using the inconsistency.
I know. I'm not serious. I'm just saying, like, we've been spending we should make
I honestly think we should
Ian. Yeah, like you and Alex should just, after we're done with the Geeky Gentleman, show, you guys can just go on and do like a mini-sode on this. So,
Well, not. I mean, this is always what happens when we get Alec on. Is he and I end up going on 20-minute tangents about the most ridiculous stuff.
I know.
and
I find it fascinating.
I love debating. I love debating the ontological argument because to me it is the most consistent argument for God, and it is also the best way to disprove the existence of God.
I know. I understand. I find this fascinating. That your whole little debate here that we were listening to. I found it completely fascinating. But if this is a Geeky Gentleman on futuristic technology and bad science.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Talking
No,
about
I mean,
Jurassic
it's
Park,
fascinating.
Ian, calm down.
Because believe me, I was more interested because that's not a criticism of Dawkins that I actually heard. Because again, I agree. I think Dawkins is way. He's too simple. Like he's like, if you taught every child critical thinking, religion would No, it wouldn't. Religion has a lot to do with brain chemistry, not.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of religion would lose.
Dude, let's move on. Let's move on. This has gotten on way too long. That's fine.
Can do like a
I
mini
would
after
be happy.
this. Yeah, you
I
can
would
get.
be happy to do a video with you on Dawkins after this if you'd like. And we can put it on your channel just because I feel like guesting on somebody's channel.
Okay, guys. Ray guns.
Dinosaurs with miniguns.
Yes, I noticed that about halfway through that Bill and Milan just weren't talking. And were you guys bored or were you interested?
No, I
I
was
was
interested,
interested.
but I felt like I was
fucking
listening to a
fascinated.
podcast rather than taking part in a podcast.
Sorry.
I found it
That's fine.
fascinating. I fucking loved it.
I was drawing the way in which I would actually build a Velociraptor with a minigun on it. It's fine.
Okay. I don't know.
Fascinating. It was great. I loved it.
Dude, Bill, draw a Velociraptor flying a helicopter, please.
Ian, it exists in comic book form. Why haven't you bought it yet?
Because my comic book store didn't have any.
It's on eBay.
Well, no, it's expensive as hell on eBay. And I don't want to read the book for it. I just want that image. I
Then
just
have
want a
Milan
Velociraptor flying a helicopter
Yeah,
out of a war zone.
He's got a guy. He's like carrying her along. His legs blown off. He's just like, we're
Yeah,
getting
like
out
there
here
are
together, man.
Terminators on the ground. That'd be awesome. Oh, actually, here's one to talk about. Here's a good philosophical debate that's actually relevant to the topic that I found fascinating. Can machines think?
Oh Jesus, no.
I guess after a certain point, when the software is evolved and they're they can actually reach that certain level of thinking for themselves, or at least the closest thing to thinking to themselves. Because what is a human brain but a biological computer? Then yes, I suppose. Yeah, but I think people will put in some sort of default like safeguards, so robots don't become humans. And I don't mean that in the worst way possible, because humans are cunts. And I think
here's the thing. A computer is not. A human mind is as a biological computer is an after product of uncontrollable events in the environment in a way. The events that craft the way a human mind thinks is not predetermined. You know what I mean? We build a computer for a specific purpose. And we only program things in a computer that's able to deal with those situations. I suppose the question then would be, can a computer, without an outside influence by a person, use that programming and then make its own programming based on that programming?
Mm-hmm. And you're arguing there are actually 4 or 5 just giant posters in the philosophy hall department, because our chair is a huge fan of this argument, and like just about everything he posts is as to why machines will be able to think one day. And Alan Turing, of course, started this all out. But anyway, there are 6 posters, and you're arguing the free will, whether or not thinking is programmed. You're arguing that it's only thinking if it's not a programmed choice. If you only program there's the computer has robot arm attached to it, and at the end of this arm there's a glass, Now, the programming says that the robot can take the glass and pick it up and put it down, on the base of the glass, or turn it around and put it down so that the opening of the glass is put down, right? Those are the only two options that the computer has, okay?
Right.
What you're arguing is the machine begins to think when it puts the glass on its side intentionally.
Yeah, I was more asking a question than I was making an argument. I was asking,
Well, that's
will
the
there be a
argument.
point where a computer can do that? Because again, a computer is not designed by an outside environment. A computer is designed by a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm very much in but that's the logical end of what you were talking about.
Yes, and I was more asking a question than I was. I was posing a question than I was.
I think that you begin to think when you make a choice or have a thought process, but it's obviously easier to see when there's a choice. When you make a choice that was not prompted by anything else. And that's why children think, because no one tells them to draw blue tomatoes, yet they do it. No one tells them to, write on the wall. They actually tell them not to. And sometimes they don't even have to tell them not to, but they just start doing it because they're thinking for themselves at that point. And it's just, to get into Freud a little bit, I don't think Freud was right from a, factual perspective, but I love his language. Children are just these little balls of id, they're just uncontrolled desires, and that's why they cry when they come out, because everything was perfect and then you just fuck that all up. But that's just me.
And basically growing up is just destroying the id, or at least tempering it a little bit.
Growing up is the process of creating the ego and the superego.
So basically the theory is that all people are born good.
No, it is base, animalistic desire.
Yeah, it's not good or bad. I don't even really accept the concept of good or bad anymore. It's just too hard to maintain that belief when data doesn't seem to suggest that it's like...
What the hell does the robot from Star Trek have to do with good and evil? Sorry. That was a ridiculous joke. Sorry, go on, Alec.
I don't get it. I feel dumb.
Data was the robot from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, okay. I now feel dumber for not realizing that.
Sorry.
Your
Okay,
nerd card has been revoked. I'm sorry.
Damn it.
You
Okay,
can
no,
now
wait,
you
wait,
can
actually,
now
just
start
a second.
having sex. You can now start having sex.
No, here we go. Milan, we haven't brought this segment back in a while, but here we go. Alec, it's time to get your nerd card back. What is the biological name for the mutants in X-Men? And to help give you an idea, the biological name for modern
Homo
man-
superior.
Why would you answer that? I was asking.
I don't understand the idea.
I'm not that type of nerd.
Question.
No, but that's the point. Is you're supposed to exercise your nerdiness. Okay, fine.
I don't really read a lot of...
No, it's the point. It is just supposed to ask a dumb question to see if you could give the answer. Okay,
No, but
fine.
I'm just pissed because Milan doesn't seem to understand the concept of asking a question now, because it's like, oh, I ask you a question, but it's just like, oh, I answer.
And the thing is, you'll ask
Alec,
a lot of
what do you
questions.
want for lunch? Bananas! It's like, no, I don't want bananas. Shut up!
Well, you get the bananas. It's fine.
Okay. How about this? All right. Who wrote? Since this is actually relevant to the topic, who wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea?
Damn it. I know who it is. Don't say nothing. Alright. I'll ask you if this is right or not. Is he the same person who wrote The Time Machine?
No, but I do get them confused. They were
Me
contemporaries.
too. Yeah.
Damn it. Because I can always remember one, but not the other. I can't. It wasn't George Orwell.
They didn't like each other either.
It wasn't George Orwell. You get one more guess.
No, the other one was just a conditional question.
Oh, okay.
God. Why do I want to say Gene Vernon? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
That's so close, though.
It is really close.
It is?
Yeah.
Yep.
Save me, internet.
No, No, I'm
No.
not. I'm trying not to talk. I want it so bad. No.
Come on. You can do it, Alex.
Julian. Is it Julian something?
Close, yeah.
You're very close.
It's like right on the tip.
Come on, Alex.
Can I give him a
You can
hint?
do it.
No.
No.
Fuck.
Come on,
Which
Alex.
was right. Like,
I'm sorry,
which,
what?
was I closer with Julian or Vernon?
Both.
They're both correct in a different way.
This is hilarious.
Ah,
Come on.
like something
You
like
do it.
Julius Vernon or
That's close
That's
enough.
even closer.
Jules Verne. It's
Jules
close enough.
Verne. I knew it. Oh my god.
Yeah. Jules Verne wrote 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and the thing I find most interesting about pseudoscience, and I think this is going to be a good place to wrap up after we finish discussing this a little bit, the thing I find most interesting about pseudoscience is when science fiction becomes real science. That very much happened with 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. The machine he describes in that book is essentially the blueprint for the very first submarine.
Yeah,
You know?
that was amazing.
And that's the same thing that happened. Like, we mentioned it a couple times throughout this. I mean, William Shatner walking around in Star Trek with his, cell phone and his tablet computer. It's like everyone just thought, oh, it's a cool little neat sci-fi thing, and it's the same thing as one day I want a damn real sonic screwdriver.
Oh god.
Get on that world. Get on that shit now. It doesn't have to do everything the Doctor's does. I just want to be able to put in a screw with sonic-y stuff.
Oh, can I say something real quick? And this is incredibly important. I need you to do this at the beginning of the video. I don't know if you want to edit this part out, add your own. We need to specify in the beginning of the video that we're talking about sci-fi pseudoscience and not shit like homeopathy or crystal healing. Because that is actually pseudoscience. That's a different word. Pseudoscience is actually fake science usually used to pilk people out of money, like dowsing.
Well, no, I mean, that's not science. That's bullshit.
Yeah, no, but that's called. So basically, they use, for instance, with homeopathy, you're diluting things over and over again until the original molecules of the ingredient are literally not there. The answer.
No, I get that. You know what needs to come back? Alchemy.
Well, no, but let me finish. What they're saying is that quantum physics, there's nanocrystalloids in the water that remember that. That's a different type of. That's pseudoscience. You should.
No, but I mean science fiction. It
We
uses
don't mean that.
it uses things that sound like science.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It's they say like
Jules
oh.
Verne had no conception of what exactly pressurization was.
Okay. Let me just say something. The whole homeopathy thing. It's interesting that when people do that, they're like, "Oh yeah, this water is remembers its like healing properties or some bullshit like that." It's strange that they never say, "Oh, this water remembers all the poo and shit it had in it."
Yeah.
I mean, that's the funny thing. Because of the limited amount of fresh water on the planet, you drink dinosaur pee. No one ever likes to talk about that.
I like to talk about that. That's awesome. I got a little
That is
raptor in me.
Yeah, I have a dinosaur in me.
Yep.
Oh.
In more ways than one.
In order to kind of keep Bill from winning whatever the bet was, how awesome was Godzilla vs. Biolant?
Love that movie. That movie.
Okay.
You didn't like that?
No, I love that movie.
I had to find that one online.
It actually just came out on Blu-ray this year.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, that's my fifth favorite Godzilla movie. I think it's there.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I love Godzilla.
No, that bet wasn't for this video, because if we were actually going to do that video, it'd be like 2 minutes long.
Ian has no faith in that.
Yeah. I grew up on Godzilla, by the way, so I'm with you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Huh.
My
Guys,
How'd you like
I gotta
Zazubar's
go
little
pee.
thing that... I'm sorry, what? Milan, what was that?
I think he had to go pee.
Oh.
He used to announce it. It's like, just write it in the comments, dude.
Yeah, I know. I remember one of our very first videos. I said, "Okay, guys, if you have to leave, just say so in the comments. Don't announce it to the world." and no one, Milan's just like, oh yeah, I agree, and then it just didn't register. Um, it's like, seriously, in one ear, out the other. With that kid. I swear. Hey Milan, if you're listening to this, how's it going? I'm insulting you and you're not even here to hear it. Take that, bitch.
We do this anyway when he's not here, so it's nothing
Yeah.
to him.
I don't know. I think that's when pseudoscience, and I agree, Alec. I mean, they're not the same thing, but science fiction uses pseudoscience because it sounds real.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna. That's the thing. The show's called Geeky Gentlemen. We're not gonna be sitting here talking about crystals and that's the philosophies actually have the same problem with metaphysics, with your crystals and your cheers off.
Yeah, the pseudo philosophy where.
And just for the record, Bill, because I was listening to the art episode, in what sense is Stalin a philosopher?
No, Ian, I said in the video he's not.
Yeah, but he's kind of the same thing. What?
No, I'm okay. Here's what I meant. You are interested in these ideas that are used to craft, government and stuff. I don't know. Just the idea of you putting Stalin on a Superman body just fits.
Well, that's hilarious.
It's called political theory.
I wasn't trying to
political
argue
theory.
that Stalin was a philosopher. I was trying to argue that what you picked
No,
for
it's
that
just like
Superman
you
head.
said it's kind of in that same vein. So I was like, what are you talking about?
I just meant that you putting Stalin's head on a Superman body makes sense.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing is no one gets that joke. No one.
I don't get it either.
Yeah,
You know what Stalin translates to?
No.
Man of Steel.
Oh, does it now?
he used
No
that when he
one
was getting ladies in the sack.
Yeah,
I
I
am the Man of Steel.
Ever gets that joke? It's
Nobody.
I wear that T-shirt. The only time people get that joke is when I wear that T-shirt around the philosophy department, and occasionally I'll just get someone to stop me in the hallway and make me show them the shirt, and they'll be like, "Oh, that is brilliant," and then they'll just walk away. And oddly enough, whenever I wear that shirt, for some reason topics about Stalin come up without anybody having seen it. I don't know why.
It's the universe, friggin'. It's the sentience of the universe giving you interesting topics to talk about.
Yeah, sometimes that's something I'm considering doing a video. Maybe we should just do not a geeky gentleman. I just got to do a video on synchronicity because I find it fascinating. I don't know.
I actually had a long conversation about that with a friend of mine called Ozzy Griffin. Well, it was not just that, but the video is featured on my channel. And we did talk about synchronicity. He's a big synchronicity type of guy. So go check that one out. I'll link it.
I don't think it means anything. I just think it's wonderfully interesting that happens. It's like this kind of madness within all of us that we You just you're driving down the road after your breakup and you're listening to the radio, and suddenly this song comes on and seems to perfectly describe the relationship you just got out of. But you've heard this song a million times before, and it's never meant anything to you. You actually know what the meaning of the lyrics actually was, as far as when the artist was writing them down. But suddenly now, it just for that brief moment, you're like, oh my god, he's describing my life. You're like, I find that wonderfully fascinating. I don't know why, because you immediately after you get that brief moment of he's describing my life, you then go, oh no, he's not. I'm just being stupid. But it keeps happening. It's not like that just happens one time in everybody's life. That's something that constantly happens.
You just described the majority of my life and my experiences with the dark arts.
No, it's just those weird little coincidences.
They just the dark side.
No. I experimented with
weird
witchcraft
coincidences
when I was
fascinating.
I experimented on Darth Vader.
I
don't know,
experimented
that
with
just
witchcraft.
happens. I've made that joke a couple times. The universe just seems to be aligning itself around me.
Of course.
Well, I think that's a psychological thing, and not so much that's actually happening.
No, and it is.
I once said to you, I believe everyone is the center of their own universe.
Yeah.
So
no, it's just something that happens to everybody. It's not just a psychological thing. It's a phenomenological thing. Everybody goes through this same experience, but nobody talks about it. No one ever talks about synchronicity, and I'm like, it's amazing. Does no one else find this amazing except me?
Dude, like I said, I had a long conversation about this with my friend. Like the
Okay,
videos
but
literally.
let's get back to the topic. Is there anything else as far as fake science in science fiction that you guys really wanted to bring up?
One thing. very
Cross
briefly.
genetics, cross genetics.
Okay.
No,
Bill, what was yours too?
interspecies genetics. That's what I meant.
And Bill, what was yours
I was
also?
just going to say I find it interesting that some films will be criticized for their use of science, and Ian, we were talking about this before we started recording. Some films will be criticized for their poor use of science, but oftentimes I find myself doing this as well. I will ignore a film's poor science because the film itself is so good. My favorite movie of all time is the original Godzilla, but it is filled with scientific bullshit. But I'm willing to look it over because the rest of the movie is a brilliant piece of art.
What do you mean? Dinosaurs totally live. What are you talking about,
Well,
Bill?
aside from the fact that they never even try to explain why there's just a random dinosaur living on an island in the South Pacific and no one knows about it. Here, let me just outline this briefly because it'll be funny. Okay, there's three main ones. Dinosaurs would not survive a nuclear blast. Just, they wouldn't. And if they did, they would not turn into Godzilla. They would probably look more like a zombie. Second one. In the film, and in all the cuts of the film, Dr. Yamane, who is seen as the film's straight-laced scientist, boldly proclaims that dinosaurs lived 2 million years ago.
Yes.
At several points throughout the film. And the third one, and this is one that people actually don't always get right, because I think it's misquoted in translation. The ultimate weapon that kills Godzilla, the Oxygen Destroyer, sounds like it actually goes into water and destroys oxygen molecules, which is not possible. But what they actually explain, or they don't even explain, it's one line, is that it separates oxygen into fluid, which again, it's not possible. But it does make more sense than, like, I heard one person just literally summarize it as, you're just removing oxygen molecules. But,
you can't, conservation of matter and energy, damn it.
Exactly, precisely, yeah, it's not possible. But the idea of the Oxygen Destroyer as being an allegory for the arms race is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree with you. That's
why I love pseudoscience. Is stuff like that is crazy and out there can be connected back to real world ideas, and I always find that fascinating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree, and I don't have much else to say. I find you find that aspect of it interesting because of the character and world building interactions. I find pseudoscience interesting because of how much it actually happens. Like this one frivolous little piece of technology that we see in some crappy sci-fi television show. Suddenly, everybody's carrying it around. I find
if the nuclear bullet in Beast and 20,000 Fathoms comes true, war is gonna be fucked. And they don't even explain what it does. It's just like, I have a nuclear bullet.
Okay, so Milan, you want to talk about what? Splicing?
Interspecies splicing.
Yeah, splicing. Just because Batman Beyond is awesome.
Yeah, indeed.
Actually, no. Batman Beyond is not awesome. Batman Beyond is shway.
And then the song just starts playing.
Yes.
I love making things awkward.
Yep.
Hover
You
cars.
do it quite well. Yeah, very true.
I don't know. Cross-species splicing. It's going to happen eventually if we ever figure out how to give. I'm really worried about what this is going to do to the furry population. To be honest with you.
I think it would be sexy.
That's your
God
fucking
damn it. You're gonna have a lot of fucking just. I can't.
Well, here's
wait.
what I don't get. People really go furries, that's fucking perverted. But it's just the logical extension of Playboy bunnies and women in cat ears. I don't understand why people get so freaked out about it. It's the logical extension of women wearing bunny ears and shit.
Well,
I don't know. The Mithra were pretty hot, so.
The Mithra?
All right, it's in that terrible. I heard it was terrible. That online Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy 11.
No.
Well, anyway, it had the perfect cat girls that has been made, evidently, and they are really hot. I'm not even a furry, but holy shit, they have like the perfect mix of whatever the hell it is that makes them hot. Yeah. I'm dead serious. It's the only cosplay from that terrible game that people actually still do. No one dresses up as anything else from that game except that. So,
Well,
yeah.
to answer Milan's question, I think that what makes people think that that's gross or they find that disturbing is the same reason why they find the idea of like I've been watching this movie this week called Island of Lost Souls, which is an interpretation of H.G. Wells' novel The Island of Dr. Moreau, where a scientist takes animals and turns them into people.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. That's the book. That's the book, and I hate when they go like, "Oh, the island of Dr. Moreau, man. He was turning people into animals. Fuck you. He was turning animals into people, and that's what makes it fucking creepy."
Yeah, and that's what's scary. It's people find the idea of another thing taking on their traits really scary. That's why that movie is scary. 'cause
Unless you put it
Think
into a
about the
children's
book.
cartoon.
The thing about the book.
Why is Tony the Tiger okay, but the Island of Dr. Moreau creepy? I don't understand the difference.
The thing about about the book is that at the end, when the guy gets off the island, he can't be around people anymore because he sees like different kind of traits. He sees the animalistic side of man, so he sees like a woman being all flirty, and he sees like there's this weird kind of thing happens to his vision. He sees the fox-like attributes come through, and like an old veteran looks like an old like dog to him, and it just is this weird kind of he can't look at people anymore, so he just goes into solitary, like into mountains away from people because people fucking scare the shit out of him now.
What can
Yeah,
you
and
be
then he
around
actually
animals?
goes ahead and does the same thing that Dr. Moreau did.
I don't know. I
What is
just like could someone explain to me why animals turning into people is horrifying unless you cartoonify it? Like, why is Bugs Bunny cool, but the
For the
Island
same
Doc-
reason why when you see someone get cut in half in a movie, it's more frightening than when you see Tom and Jerry get cut in half. You know what I mean?
I think it has to do with you see, Bugs Bunny is funny because he's an anthropomorphized cartoon character that's funny. It's like Aesop's fables. It's easier to instead of just creating a fully rounded character, everybody knows like people have imprinted their certain personality traits on the rabbit, cowardly or whatever. But with if there's one thing making liking Bugs Bunny because he's funny, it's another thing to want to fuck Bugs Bunny.
And on that note, we'll see you guys next week. No, okay. We're not ending on that. Please, for the love of God, someone say something.
It's like, you guys go away. I'm gonna visit some 4chan now.
One thing.
No,
one
to
thing
be
that-
honest, I've actually never been on 4chan. I don't even know if that exists anymore, but yeah.
I don't know.
Guys, one thing about the whole Bugs Bunny thing. It's you know who Crumb is? He was basically an underground cartoonist. He's the guy who revolutionized underground comics. And it's weirdly in his documentaries like, yeah, I always found Bugs Bunny sexually attractive, and he's a fucking creepy looking motherfucker.
I mean, to be
It's
fair,
just-
Bugs Bunny was always cross-dressing and shit.
That's not the same.
Oh,
guy
yeah,
who
totally.
created Fritz the cat, is it? Not Felix the cat, Fritz the cat.
Well, like, hold on. If Bugs Bunny
Oh yeah,
wasn't,
Fritz the Kid.
wasn't if Bugs Bunny was never meant to be sexually attractive, why the fuck was Lola?
Because
she was
Bunny
supposed to be a
boobies.
female virgin. She was supposed to be sexually attractive to Bugs Bunny.
They needed
Oh, you're
to
talking
display
about
the
from
whole
Roger Rabbit.
gamers.
No, I'm not
no.
talking about Jessica Rabbit. I'm talking about Lola Bunny.
Yeah, from who?
Space Jam.
Space Jam. Yeah, well, that's a little different. Bugs Bunny changed over time, and they needed a female version to be a.
And what is up with men? What is up? Like, do all men secretly desire to have just like a female version of them? Like, I don't know
yes,
if I'd want.
it's yes.
I don't know if I'd
actually.
want to be
Yeah.
the female version of Ian. That sounds weird.
No, but
I-
that's-
I
that's-
think
man.
what it is we. Well, like that has more to do with. I think that's actually kind of realistic in that if you take a baby and show it as many pictures of different ape faces as you do humans, as that baby gets older, it'll be able to discern slight variations in the faces of apes just as accurately as it can humans. I know apes are humans and humans are apes, blah blah blah. But you get what I'm saying. That
Yeah.
actually is something. So I think I think people know instinctively that we would not really be able to tell the difference between the two. Like you really can't, except for like color and, you know, anthropomorphic bunny would look like an anthropomorphic bunny. It'd be kind of hard to tell the two apart because we're not that. You know.
No, but I mean, it's like I'm talking about
I
just
am.
with any character. I mean, Supergirl and Superman. It's just like, did you really want the female version of you? Would you?
Guys,
would
do you
have-
really want to? Yeah, like an.
Like, I don't want to see the female version of Milan. It would just be just terrible. I'm pretty sure the female version of Milan would have been kidnapped and raped years ago.
That's
Um,
nice. I think Milan is the
my
female
version-
version of himself.
That, oh, if only that were true. But the weird thing is, like, I think my version of me would be like this crazy but kind of hot schizo chick that's, you know, talks about killing everybody but kind of hot at the same time.
And on that note, we're gonna.
No, we're not ending. We're never ending on something Milan says. That's just not going to happen.
We are your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.
Nope. We are going to continue discussing things right now.
We are
Oh.
discussing things.
And we are discussing things. I don't care that we're 2.5 hours in. We're gonna find a good place to wrap up, connected to the actual topic here.
Bunny fucking. Oh wait, what were we talking about? Not bunny fucking.
Let's
I don't know.
genetically engineer bunny fucking.
No, okay, so genetically engineered.
Way ahead of you, buddy.
between-
Way ahead of you.
between- genetically crossing animal and human things. So are we talking like subtle things, you know, make, you know, like $6 million man kind of things, but with animals instead of cybernetics? Or are we
Nah,
talking
just
like,
literally-
are we
So
talking like,
want what is it? The animal? What the hell's that movie called? Where
oh
yeah,
god, the animal is dumb.
just a
where he's got
splicer.
like different animals inside of him, and he has those powers. He's a cop.
Yeah, that was dumb.
It's basically Inspector Gadget with animals.
Exactly. Which
That's what
makes it
animal.
really
That's
fucked
what,
up.
that's what Animal Man is.
No, Animal Man takes on the powers of animals. This guy's just got like a tiger heart, and it's actually kind of disturbing when you think about it. Because this dude just has like all these animals just locked up in a barn, and he just like dissected them.
Science.
You guys have seen a lot of weird stuff that I have not seen. That's all I have to say about that.
No, that's kind of a disturbing. Really, the Rob Schneider movie, The Animal. You've never seen that? It's kind of a disturbing premise. Like they played off like a comedy, but like you'd have to because anything else you just couldn't show to people. Oh man, I'm laughing too hard to talk. You couldn't show the like serious version of that movie to people because you need a guy who just kept animals and just, oh, here's an injured police officer. I'm gonna put him on my operating table and just put these parts inside him.
Yeah, which that is the highest form of pseudoscience right there. But here's the thing. That's there's an interesting thing to get back to the topic. That's when I think pseudoscience doesn't work. Because what's going on there is you're using basically a premise that wouldn't really work. You're taking different parts of animals and assuming that traits are going to be inside of those organs that'll translate to human DNA, which to at least currently is not possible.
Yeah, I mean you're gonna have, you know, what's it called? Rejection, organ rejection.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that happens between people. Imagine how it would work between a tiger heart and a human body.
Well,
We're
I mean,
not
to be
actually
fair, the first-
considering this to be possible. Are we really having this conversation?
No. I'm trying to make a point.
Oh, okay.
The thing is that as a film, as like a
he's
film
pointing
criticism.
out
Hold on.
he's pointing out the logical fallacies in the Rob Schneider films.
Hang on. I'm trying to make a better point here. My point is that because the movie itself is not good, because the comedy is forced, because the acting is bad, because the premise is tired, we don't accept that pseudoscience. But at least I go back on Island of Lost Souls and I accept the bullshit science in that movie because I like the movie. because there's ideas behind it that I think are still worth exploring, even with the bullshit science. I feel that way about Godzilla. I don't feel that way about the animal.
No, dude, actually now alright, Gemini Springsteen on the serious version of the animal, just that's gonna be it so dark because
you know how it's gonna end up? It's just gonna be the Rob Schneider sitting like half dead, like
hold
holding on to.
No, dude, Gemini Springsteen has to be the guy that was operated on.
Yeah, it's gotta be Gemini Springsteen.
Oh god. Or, I mean, I guess Gemini could be the operator with just like this barn full of animals. Like, that's just the creepiest thing once you think about it and take it seriously. There's just this guy, he found like an injured police officer, was like, oh my god, I've got to help him. So he took him to his barn and he started dissecting, tigers and elephants and shit, and just putting their body parts inside of him. It's just really fucked up.
Yeah, it is really fucked up. Damn.
That could get really dark really quickly.
Oh, dude.
We find out the guy is actually Dr. Moreau in hiding.
Think about that though.
Just
Think about how sick you would have to be to think that would work. Like, that is like one step above Texas Chainsaw Massacre right there.
It's like the human centipede level twisted shit.
It is, isn't it? Oh god.
I should.
But it's like this quirky romantic comedy, and it's just, oh man, that's ridiculous. I never thought about that before. Thanks, Bill, for ruining it.
Always here to help, Ian. Always here to help. And then I fly
Thank
off.
you for ruining an already bad movie. So, guys, I think that's a good place to end on. We're 2 hours, and so thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Geeky Gentlemen. Sorry we got onto that really long tangent, but it was I had a lot of fun talking about it, even though I sounded frustrated. That's just, passionate argument for you. Yeah, I loved, because that's the thing, like I was talking about, I spend time, I try to talk philosophically to people, and they look at me like I'm the idiot. I cannot stand that. But anyways, thanks for listening, guys. This was a very, very fun discussion. It got a little out there at times, but yeah. Anyway, until next time. We're Geeky Gentlemen.
Wait, you have to announce next week's topic.
Oh, yes, thank you. Milan, what are we doing next week?
Well, we're gonna be doing a review segment. We're gonna be doing Marilyn Manson, this Antichrist Superstar album, versus Rob Zombie album, White Zombie.
Cool.
So it's basically like these two, shock rock gods fucking duking it out for we'll be discussing which one is better.
Cool.
I have a feeling I'm gonna hate both of them, but okay.
Manson's alright. I don't care for his music, but he does fantastic covers. Anyway. Yeah, until next time though, we're Geeky Gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.